This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate what if Naruto gained matter manipulation during Chunin Exam Finals. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
As Jiraiya pushes Naruto over a precipice to gain access to Kyuubi's chakra, our story takes place during Naruto's training month. After realizing what had happened, Naruto made a valiant attempt to hold onto one of the rocks, but to no avail. As he fell, he closed his eyes and thought, "I'm going to die here." Naruto found himself standing in a sewer when he opened his eyes with a low growl. He herded it and followed a big cage with a big red eye staring back at him was what he saw. The big-eyed figure said, "Welcome to my humble abode, Naruto. To what do I owe this visit? You made my life a living hell. If never attacked Konoha I would have had a better life, but I'm stuck with you, damn fox." "Wow, hey, calm down. For one, I didn't attack your village. I attacked a man named Mujo or Orochimaru, that's what he calls himself, and two, my name is Kazuma, not Fox or Kyuubi. So if that's true, then you being sealed inside of me was a mistake, and if you're not Kyuubi no Kitsune, then who are you? Like I said, I'm Kazuma, no last name, but better than tell you who I am, I'll show you." After that, Naruto was encircled by water at his feet. Naruto's eyes flashed back to memories of a boy no older than 15, with brown, spiky hair, and an incredible red and gold armored arm. "That was you, but how did you become a fox?" "I don't know, but alter has something to do about it." "What's alter?" Naruto inquired. "It's the ability to take matter from around you and form it into something else, but you can't use it, you have to be born with it. So it's like a keke genkai." "Yes, but with a twist. It's different from person to person, but you're an exception since my sealing. You now have the ability to use alter. Your chakra isn't something that where I come from have, and on top of that your chakra has an affinity to darkness that makes everything more difficult. So I can use alter, but I'm not supposed to be able to use alter now. What happen if I use my alter, Kazuma?" "My guess would be that your body will change to accommodate your new alter powers. Probably nothing too serious though." "So what will my alter be?" "Right now whatever you want it to be, but it will be morphed by your chakra. But right now is your first lesson. If you want us to live, use it now." As Naruto returned to reality, he noticed the ground getting closer and closer. Acting instinctively, he punched the ground with his right arm, causing it to explode into nothingness and send him hurtling back up from the cliff he had been pushed from. He landed perfectly and looked incredulously at his arm. "Just so you can't tell me that I'm coping off of Chad, this is all my idea." His arm was now completely covered in black armor. N. From the fist up, and no, it's not Chad's arm from Bleach. The fist was completely black, with 4 silver spikes in the middle and talon-like nails at the tips of each finger. There was a silver guard on the wrist up to the elbow, where a curved blade resembled an elbow guard. The armored forearm conformed to the contour of his muscles. The armor hugged the muscles shape from the elbow up until it reached the shoulder. A thin strip of armor extended from the shoulder to the same location on the back, where 3 pillars protruded. "Wow," was all Naruto could say as he stared. Jiraiya ran up just as Naruto was ready to leave. "Hey kid, you were supposed to access Kyuubi's chakra in order to summon a toad. What happened?" Naruto scraped his left thumb, causing blood to rush through the hand seals, and then slammed his armored palm to the ground, causing a toad the size of Jiraiya to appear, shocking Jiraiya. "Don't even get me started, pervy sage. For 1, Kyuubi has no chakra, for 2, you almost killed me, and 3, I now know why I had such crappy chakra control, so summoning a toad should be no problem." Jiraiya yelled. How did you do that, and what is that armor?" Holding up his arm, Naruto said, "I told you that my chakra control was horrible for a reason, which is why this is my altar. As for what it is, it's like a keke genkai. I've had this power since the day Kyuubi, or should I say Kazuma, was sealed inside of me, and only I can use it," Naruto said, and his arm started to glow darkly. Not even a second after he finished before his world turned black. He clutched his arm in agony. "What the hell just happened? That pain, was that part of my altar?" Naruto asked, once more standing in front of Kazuma's cage, looking up at her in a daze. "No, your body just started to change to adapt to your new altar power. Think of it like this, your body is making itself better." Jiraiya and the nurses observed Naruto's body radiating a rainbow aura outside of his mindscape. After that, his muscles swell and then give way. The nurses became ill as this kept happening, and they heard bones breaking. "But how long will that take? My match with Neji is tomorrow and I plan on being there." "Relax little dude, your body should stop changing by morning, but that's not what you should be worrying about." "Why?" "I was looking at your chakra and compared it to everyone else we have passed, and so far you're the only one with dark chakra." "Does that mean I'm evil?" "No, that just means you have a hidden past, that's all." "So you're telling me that my family might have been a clan?" As he broke down in tears, Kazuma said, "Yes, But I killed a lot of people in self-defense. But if I killed your family, I'm sorry. Could you ever forgive me, Naruto? He exclaimed. Kazuma, you I do not blame. I blame Orochimaru for that, and from this day forward I swear I will kill Orchimaru and regain our honor. He wronged us both, but revenge isn't the answer. I have a different motive. My family might be gone, but he hurt two of my best friends, and that I can never forgive him for, especially what he did to you. Thank you, Naruto, thank you. But one more thing, I want to know, what's the deal with my altar? For starters, you can bend darkness to shroud anything in darkness that nothing can see through at will. Second, using your chakra you can use dark bullets, but only 3 each pillar on your back represents a bullet, that's all I guess. Thank you, Kazuma, I'm going to catch some sleep, so good night, Kazuma. As Naruto disappeared, Kazuma said, good night, Naruto. When Naruto's eyes opened, he saw his hospital room's darkened walls. He turned to see Jiraiya sleeping peacefully in the chair beside the bed. After wondering how he got here, Naruto came to the conclusion that Jiraiya must have been the one who brought him here. Despite the fact that he was a huge pervert, Naruto was grateful that his sensei took an interest in him just to use the restroom. He got out of bed, but as soon as he did, he collapsed face down on the floor, waking Jiraiya. Naruto stood up and exclaimed, that was unpleasant, but he nearly fell again if Jiraiya hadn't grabbed him. Jess kid, you cause trouble wherever you go, don't you? As he regained his balance and took a few steps, Naruto said, you have no right to talk, pervy sage, at least I don't peek on women at the hot springs. Well, at least you're okay, kid, you had us scared for quite a while. Just what the hell happened to you? Jiraiya laughed as Naruto remarked, I'm not sure myself, but everything seems smaller now. Turning on the light in the hospital room, he said, nothing got smaller, kid, you got taller, look for yourself. Naruto was shocked by what he saw. When he looked in the mirror, there was a hint of brown in his once sun-blonde hair. He noticed that there was no longer any baby fat on his face. The birthmarks on his whiskers had thickened and darkened. When his gaze strayed to his torso, he saw that although he was naked, he was noticeably taller and ripped. He was frightened because the seal on her stomach was fully visible. Naruto, unable to put on his shirt, remarked, I don't know what the hell happened to me, but I like my new look. Jiraiya laughed and said, well, it looks like you need some new clothes, kid. He threw his jacket to Naruto and said, put this on, we'll go shopping for clothes right now. At 4:30 in the morning, what kind of store is open now? Shouted Naruto as he glanced at the clock. As she was leaving, Jiraiya said, wow, kid, calm down, I know a place, plus, it's the day of the Chunin Exam Finals, and every store in the shopping district will be opening soon. As soon as he said that stores were opening, booths were being set up. As Naruto and Jiraiya entered the shopping area, they continued to walk until Jiraiya paused at a dilapidated-looking structure known as Higarashis. Naruto halted in awe as they entered. The interior was completely different from the exterior, where rows of ninja gear and weapons were visible. There was nobody at the counter when Naruto approached it. After spotting a bell, he rang it. However, it rang when he did, but it was totally crushed. And then Naruto heard a female voice exclaimed, coming, as a girl with brown hair pulled back into buns approached the counter. Naruto said, Tenten, it's nice to see you again. Tenten gave him a curious look. She said, I'm sorry, do I know you? As Tenten slapped herself across the forehead, he declared, it's me, Naruto the ONR who has to fight Neji in 5 hours. Trying not to blush, she said, sorry, I didn't recognize you. You look so different now, what happened? Naruto inquired, I can't tell you yet, but when did you get another job? Oh, I don't. I occasionally assist at my dad's store, but what did you need? Naruto hurried to the clothes section and said, oh, I need some new clothes, so I'll talk to you after I'm done, okay? Kazuma's voice echoed in Naruto's mind as he started to consider something orange. Kazuma shouted, no Naruto, nothing orange, it's an eyesore, get something cool. Alright, I'll take a look, but I'm so accustomed to orange that it's difficult to decide. After searching through several aisles and finding nothing, Naruto noticed something. A black jacket with a red interior and metal armor running down the left arm from the shoulder to the elbow. It looked similar to the one Kazuma wore, but the back was a little longer. Naruto thought to himself, wow, this is the second time this has happened, and it's only my right arm that does this, as the plastic hanger broke in his hand as he removed it from the rack. In addition to the jacket, he selected 5 blood red skin-tight shirts with sleeves that ended at the forearm, 5 pairs of Anbu-grade pants, and mesh armor, AN. Similar to chain armor that you can wear underneath your clothes. He noticed Jiraiya laughing and writing in a notepad in the girls' area as he was leaving the changing room. Get out of the girls' aisle, pervy sage. Tenten threw a kuni at Naruto after he said it loudly enough for her to hear. When Naruto noticed 2 fingerless gloves on the wall behind Tenten, one black with black metal fragments on it and the other black with a red seal on the palm. He went to the checkout counter and paid for his purchases. "Hey Tenten, what's the purpose of those gloves?" he inquired. "Those are a set of gloved my dad made. The right one is for channeling chakra releasing or elemental affinity and the other can store weapons or supplies, but nobody wanted them." Tenten smiled as he said, "How much are they?" "I'll take them," she informed him of the cost, and he immediately paid for them. "So, Tenten, who do you support?" She gave him a little smile and said, "I don't know, but I still think what Neji did to Hinata was wrong, but he is still my friend, but I do wish you luck, Naruto." Naruto said, "Well Tenten, I'll see you later," and he and Jiraiya departed. Naruto tore off the right arm sleeve of his new jacket as soon as they left. Jiraiya grinned as she turned to face Naruto. "So, what do you think about becoming my apprentice?" The first thing that came out of Naruto's mouth after staring at him in shock was, "Yes, pervy sage, I would like to be your apprentice. Pump some chakra into it, then we'll know what element I need to train you on," Jiraiya said, giving Naruto a piece of paper. "If it's fire, it will turn to ash, if it's water, it will become wet, if it's earth, it will crumble, if it's wind, it will slice in half, and if it's lightning, it will crinkle." Jiraiya nearly fainted as Naruto started to pour his chakra into the paper, but it did something unexpected. It turned completely black, then it was cut in two, and finally it turned to ash. "When it turns black, pervy sage, what does that mean?" Acting foolish, Naruto inquired. "Who were your parents, Naruto?" Jiraiya asked directly. "I don't know, I've been alone all my life. With the old mont's help I got an apartment at 7, Naruto said. "We're going to see Sarutobi, so hurry up, kid," Naruto simply followed without asking any questions. After receiving a shock from Sarutobi, Jiraiya burst through the doors of his office. "What do I owe Jiraiya for this visit, my dear?" Sarutobi inquired. "I want the truth, Sensei. Who were Naruto's parents?" No games. Jiraiya's question caused Sarutobi to put down his pipe. "All right, I'll explain, but why the curiosity?" Jiraiya handed Naruto another piece of paper and said, "Naruto did something he shouldn't be able to do. Watch." He pumped chakra into it, and the same thing happened again, leaving Sarutobi stunned. "So who were they, Sensei?" And no holding back, Jiraiya, "I never told anyone that Naruto's parents were Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki because I didn't want to tell him so soon and you were gone for so long." He said that Naruto broke Sarutobi's desk in two when he slammed his fist against it. "Why didn't you tell me, old man?" Naruto yelled, frightening Sarutobi. "It was for your own good, Naruto. Minato had a lot of enemies and I didn't want you to get hurt." "That still doesn't make the pain go away. You've been lying to me for a long time, and I was despised for something that wasn't within my control. If people had known, wouldn't my life have been happier rather than the hell I endured?" Tears were streaming down Naruto's face as he spoke. This infuriated Naruto, who fled for the door with tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but now that you know, there is no hiding it. Your full heritage will become public knowledge and you will receive your inheritance. Please don't follow me as I'm leaving," Naruto shouted. "Sensei, should I pursue him?" Jiraiya was asked. "No, give the boy time to think." "Okay, just one more thing, Sensei. I've taken Naruto as my new apprentice. Just don't overdo his training, Jiraiya, and don't turn him into a pervert. For example, if you pay close attention to Naruto's match, you'll notice something intriguing." Jiraiya disappeared after that. Naruto was still crying a lot as he ran to his training ground when he heard a faint sound that sounded like a voice. He turned around and saw Hinata Hyuga approaching him slowly and timidly. "What exactly is wrong with Naruto?" With shyness, she inquired. "Sorry Hinata, I'm crying. I must look like a total loser." "Never." He couldn't stop crying as she pulled him into an embrace and yelled, "You are not a loser, Naruto." After a short while, she let Naruto go from her embrace. "Thank you Hinata, I needed that." She blushed and said, No problem Naruto. You don't have to tell me B. But why were you crying?" Naruto threw a rock at a tree and said, "I've just discovered that I have been deceived throughout my life by none other than the Hokage himself. He shouldn't have kept it a secret, he should have told me." "What did Tal tell you?" After Hinata gasped, he remarked, "That my father was the fourth Hokage." Quietly, she said, I'm so sure he had his reasons. He said it was to keep me safe so enemy assassins wouldn't kill me for revenge." When she realized what she had said, she blushed a new shade of red. I'm glad he did her the person I care the most for wouldn't be here." He gave Hinata a hug and said, Thank you, that means a lot to me to know someone cares about me. Hinata grinned broadly before she began to cough. He released her, and she collapsed to the ground, coughing until blood was visible on the floor as she passed out from the stress. As quickly as she could, Naruto picked her up in bridal fashion and ran toward the hospital, which he stormed through like a hurricane. She just stopped coughing up blood, but someone is getting help now. As a doctor rushed to her and took her pulse, Naruto yelled. As soon as she enters the cardiac arrest, get her to the emergency room, the physician yelled. It was 8:30 in the morning, and Naruto's day was already tragic, so he tried to follow them but was told he had to wait outside the operating room for an hour. Naruto paced, fearing Hinata would die, before a doctor emerged. Good news, she made it, but there is a problem. What? Naruto yelled. Her hair is still recovering from an almost fatal wound to the heart made by a concentrated chakra burst. Is she conscious? Yes, she came to about 10 minutes ago. Please let me see her. In the hopes that he would say yes, he asked. Sir, right this way. As he led him to Hinata's room, the doctor said. When Naruto entered the room and saw Hinata with IV tubes in her nose and arm and a heart rate monitor attached, he nearly burst into tears. He sat directly beside her and said, Hey, I'm so happy you're awake. With joy, he said. Did you bribe me to bring me here, Naruto? Weakly, she inquired. Yes, the second you fainted. She tried to sit up and said, Duh, thank you, Naruto. Naruto helped him into a sitting position and said, Wow, don't strain yourself. Naruto removed his jacket and wrapped it around Hinata as she started to shiver, saying, Hold on, I'll be right back with another blanket for you. Grasping Naruto's jacket, Hinata grinned, dismissing her initial question about his appearance because, in her opinion, he was simply more attractive. Shikamaru was standing in the hallway when Naruto went outside to look for a doctor. Hi Shikamaru. How are you? Naruto yelled when Shikamaru saw Naruto. He became very excited. Is that you, Naruto? The one and only. Have you visited a doctor or nurse? Said idly as they strolled down the corridor with Naruto. No, but I am searching for Choji. He overindulged in barbecue and ended up here. When they pasted Rock Lee's room, they found a red-headed boy with a gourd on his back covering Lee in sand while they were looking for a doctor. When he froze and was able to move, Gaara was about to succeed when he saw Shikamaru use his shadow posesionjutsu on him. Naruto then entered with a right hook, sending both Shikamaru and Gaara into the opposite wall. Naruto, I've got him. If you hit him I feel it too. Why are you interfering? Gaara asked. What makes you attack someone who is hurt? Naruto inquired. Simple, I kill to prove I exist. I love only myself and live to kill. That all came to be clear when I was 6 years old when my father sent my uncle to kill me for I became a threat for having the Shikaku sealed in me before birth, killing my mother, he stated. So you are like me, only stuck in the darkness. You can be free. Life is what you want it to be, not what you make it about to be. He yelled, Shut up, make me feel alive. As sand flew in Shikamaru's direction and toward him, but my Jia interrupted it. As Gaara left with a vow to murder them, Jia said, Save the fighting for the finals. Recalling Hinata, Naruto hurried out of the room, grabbed a blanket from the nurse, and rushed to her. As soon as he approached the door, Hinata greeted him. Then, thank you Naruto for everything. I should be thanking you for comforting me the way you did. It was 10 o'clock when Naruto checked the clock. He threw on his jacket and ran up. Hey Hinata, after you're out how about I take you to dinner? He inquired. Hinata blushed wildly as she looked down. With sweetness, she said, I would like that. As Hinata wished him luck, he departed for the stadium, saying, I have to go, I've got the finals, but I'll come right back here when I'm done, I promise. Naruto made it to the stadium quite quickly after running there at full speed, but he was stopped because the guards would not let him in. The masked Anbu guard said, Halt, state your name, rank, and reason for being here. Naruto Uzumaki here for the finals. The man in the cat mask said, Beat it, you don't look like Naruto. After snarling and recalling his actions from yesterday, Naruto positioned himself and punched the ground, sending him flying. However, he made a final statement before he landed on his feet and skidded in a circle through the dirt, saying, Next time it will be worse than itching powder in your masks. While some of the audience, including Genma, were in awe, Sarutobi and Jiraiya were the most. What's your name and company name? Genma inquired. I'm here with Naruto Uzumaki to kick that bastard's ass. He pointed to Neji and said. Excellent. Would those who aren't taking part in the first round please vacate the premises? Genma yelled. Naruto Uzumaki vs Neji Hyuga, the opening match of the Chunin Exam Finals, begins. Before Neji broke the silence, The two stood motionless, glaring at one another with hatred. You should forfeit as fate has chosen me to win this match. I'm going to keep the promise I made, like I'd quite. Neji hurried at Naruto, saying, very well, your death shall be in vain. Naruto swiftly created 5 shadow clones and retreated. What should I do, Kazuma? Make half a dozen more clones, stand back, collect chakra in your right glove, and punch, trust me, it will work. Following his instructions, Naruto struck Neji with a wave of dark light sought, but it was unsuccessful because Neji blocked Naruto's attack by spinning around the chakra around him. As he started using gentle fist style 64 palms, Neji remarked, your attempts are futile as I have you in my range. After the intense attack, Naruto collapsed to the ground, and Neji informed the proctor that it was over. It's not over till I'm dead, so fight me. Neji gave Naruto a heartfelt account of his life, saying, your destiny is on my side, and I'll tell you why. So you believe that you are the only one with a seal that you cannot remove? I have a burden that is much heavier than yours, so you believe that fighting Hinata was a way to exact revenge on the main branch. She nearly passed away from heart failure today if it weren't for me, and I will always be angry with you for hurting her. Now watch my Kekkei Genkai Darknessfalls be reborn. Chunks of earth vanished, and Naruto's right arm started to glow in black light. He held his arm forward as it broke into 3 pieces, which were then reassembled using black rings. Then, the mist began to form armor. See chapter 1 to see what it looks like, and at last, 3 pillars appeared on his back. Sarutobi, who was sitting next to the Kazakage, who was actually Orochimaru in disguise, shocked Neji so much that he started to reconsider using Sasuke as his next vessel. So the boy can use Alter, huh? I'll take it for my own soon enough, Neji said. So you made your arm change, it still cannot beat my Byakugan, for you are destined to fail. Fate has nothing to do with it, you're just hiding from the truth that you tried to murder Hinata, Naruto said, charging forward and punching Neji in the face. I'll show you that fate does not exist. Naruto said, punching the ground. Taking flight, Naruto flew to a height that he didn't think possible, then started to descend, spinning once around a pillar on Naruto's back, slammed into him, and his arm shined with black light as he yelled, blackout first bullet. When Neji's Rotation failed at the last second due to Naruto's impact, he was flung against the stadium wall and hit the ground face first. How did fate select me to win, but you defeated me? Naruto knelt down to Neji. I told you that fate doesn't exist. So move on, you have the freedom to choose your life and your actions, but don't hide behind lies like you did when you fought Hinata. She fought to change, and she succeeded. You should be grateful that I spared your life, Naruto remarked as he left. After giving Neji a quick glance, Genma remarked, a caged bird will learn to free itself as soar through the air. Naruto Uzumaki is the winner of the first round. Returning to the stands, Naruto was met by Sakura, Ino, Lee, Shikamaru, and Kakashi. Naruto, that was incredible. What was it? Sakura inquired inquisitively. That was my Kekkei Genkai. It's called Alter. I'm the only person with this power as of now, but each Alter is different from person to person, and only those born with it can use and pass it on to their children. I unlocked it yesterday while training, but I call this Darknessfalls, he said while raising his right arm. Shikamaru said in his typical slack voice, well, at least you won. The odds were against you and you beat them. You are one troublesome person, Naruto. Taking his eyes off his book, Kakashi remarked, well, you are really Konoha's #1 most unpredictable knucklehead ninja. Lee then came up to Naruto, clutching his crutches. Naruto, you accomplished something that I could not. I'm thrilled, but I'm also envious of you. Why am I such a loser, and how weak am I in comparison to you? Lee sobbed as he gripped his crutch so tightly that his wound widened. Naruto smiled at Lee and said, wow, Lee, calm down. You are in no word loser, and you will never be one as long as you work hard towards your dream. Naruto was about to sit when 2 Anbu black op guards materialized in a leaf swirl in front of him. The Hokage is now in need of you, Naruto Namikaze, a bird-masked Anbu said. When Kakashi heard this, he did the unimaginable and dropped his book, staring at Naruto in disbelief. Nah, Naruto, you're my sensei's son. As he vanished with the Anbu, Naruto remarked, you're not the only one shocked about it. I found out myself today. I'll tell you when I get back. A few seconds later, Naruto was in front of the Kazekage and Sarutobi, but he felt strange for some reason that he was unable to identify. I formally declare you to be a Chunin, Naruto. Your performance as leader and Hokage was incredible. As he handed Naruto a vest, he said, hey old man, why am I getting promoted now? All I did was kick Neji's ass, which was Neji's due. That was about all I did with my new Kekkei Genkai, Naruto said as he took the vest. That may be so, but you also showed understanding of how to use your elemental affinity, so that is why I am appointing you Chunin, Sarutobi replied with a proud smile. The Kazekage, also known as Orochimaru, said, yes, your performance out there was quite the entertainment. You deserve your title, young Namikaze. I don't know what you got, Kazuma, but there's something wrong with this guy, Naruto said. I don't know right now, but he does seem familiar to me. Naruto dismissed it and posed the straightforward query, am I allowed to exit the stadium now that I'm Chunin? Yes, Naruto, you are, but could you tell me why? Sarutobi inquired inquisitively. He looked down, his eyes glazed, and said, I'm going to go see Hinata in the hospital. Well, be on your way, don't leave her waiting. Also be in my office tomorrow so we can register your Kekkei Genkai into the Konoha's clan registry, Sarutobi replied as he left. Orochimaru said, smiling malevolently beneath his mask, you are a good man, Hokage. But you appear to be becoming senile. You ought to declare an heir. When Sarutobi realized he was speaking to his former pupil rather than the Kazekage, he said, thank you for the concern, but I plan on retaining my position as Hokage for a few more years. Naruto, who knew of one flower shop but was always afraid to enter the Yamanaka flower shop, decided to bring her flowers while he was on his way to the hospital. Naruto entered the room feeling a little uneasy, but he exhaled when he learned that Ino would be watching Shikamaru at the finals. He started searching through the flowers to find the one Hinata would like, something that would let her know that he cared more than he ever could have for Sakura. Why do I feel this way about her? This feeling is so foreign to me and my chest feels so warm when I think of her, he thought to himself as he stopped at a lavender flower that was incredibly beautiful. It looked like a snail emerging from its shell. I know it doesn't sound beautiful, but trust me, if you saw it, you'd be surprised. It fit her perfectly as he picked it up, returning to his reverie. Could this feeling be love? He asked himself as he went back into his reverie. The flower you are holding is known as the snail vine flower, or Phaseolus caracalla. When Naruto turned around, he saw a woman who resembled Ino but had green eyes, the voice said. Thank you, although I'm not very good at naming flowers, could I please have a bouquet of these? Naruto inquired as courteously as he could. All right, but do I recognize you? You look familiar. I'm one of Ino's old classmates, Naruto Uzumaki. As she gave him the bouquet, Naruto cheerfully paid the 2,360 yen, saying, so that's why you looked familiar anyway. Wait a minute, shouldn't you be at the finals already? Curious, she asked. The clerk gasped as he said, I was until I was promoted to Chunin by old man Hokage himself. Who are the flowers for, if I may ask so boldly? Naruto hurried out the door to the hospital, saying, they're for a friend in the hospital. Well, I've got to hurry, so see you. After a few minutes, he arrived at the hospital and was granted permission by the receptionist to see Hinata. As he reached the door, he heard a male voice that sounded irate and was aimed at Hinata. You have demonstrated to me that you are too weak for our clan and a disgrace to the name Hyuga. As a result, I hereby declare you to be my daughter and to disband the Hyuga clan, the voice said, and the door opened to reveal Hiyashi Hyuga, Hinata's father. He was her father, for heaven's sake, and he just dumped her. Naruto felt something he hadn't felt since he was in wave. A wave of fury and anger that was overwhelming, and the one thing that scared him was bloodlust. Whelp, get out of my way, pushing aside, Hiyashi said. I am willing to forgive you for a lot of things, but what you did was unforgivable, and I won't think twice about killing you if you hurt her. Naruto turned around and said. The Shikigami would shit himself from the killing intent in his eyes, which were blood red with slits instead of ocean blue. He saw that Naruto Hiyashi was on the verge of passing out, so he seized the chance to get away. After calming down, Naruto rushed into Hinata's room and discovered that she was crying uncontrollably. He rushed to her aid, embracing her and letting her sob into his shoulder, which seemed to last forever despite the fact that his shoulder was completely covered in tears. Naruto simply held her tenderly while she tried to relax. When it came to the final match back at the stadium, Kankuro had forfeited, leaving Shikamaru and Tamari's match, but he ultimately forfeited after Shikamaru got her where he wanted her, leaving Sasuke and Gaara's match. Sasuke had nearly been eliminated until he and Kakashi arrived in a flurry of leaves. If you're wondering where Sasuke was, he was at the hospital getting a checkup so he could participate in the finals. Before Gaara spoke, Genma started the match by having the two stare at one another. Gaara threw sand at Sasuke and said, neither my mother nor I are interested in you. She wants Uzumaki's blood, now die. Sasuke charged at Gaara, who could match Lee without his weights, and managed to get past his ultimate defense, hitting him a few times before Gaara became serious. When he saw that he couldn't break the dome, he ran up the stadium wall, stopping briefly to make a few hand seals before slamming his right hand onto the wall and running at full speed towards Gaara. As he ran, lightning gathered in his hand, and he rushed at the dome, dodging the spikes and hitting the dome, but failing to break through. He looked down and saw that his feet were being held by sand, and he struggled to break free, but was unable to do so. But that wasn't the least of his problems, because a demonic arm made of sand erupted from the dome, grabbing him and throwing him into the stadium wall as the dust settled. Gaara stood there, his body covered in sand, making him appear like a raccoon. As I mentioned, Uchiha, please don't insult me. As the explosion in the Hokage's box occurred, he said. Back with Hinata and Naruto. When Hinata realized who was holding her, she quickly withdrew. Blushing as red as a tomato, she had completely calmed down and was now gazing lovingly at Naruto. So, sorry Naruto. As he handed Hinata the flowers, Naruto, who was now flushed, grinned and said, it was no problem, you comforted me, now I did the same. Oh, these are for you. She held the flowers and said, thank you, Naruto, before her head fell. Hinata, what's wrong? She began to cry once more as she said, I have nowhere to go now, I have no family or reason to live, I'm useless. Hinata, you are one of the strongest people I know and you have a place to go if you want. You can live with me, you are not worthless. Hinata smiled warmly at what he said. I'm not Sakura, and I'm not attractive, so why do you care so much about me? Hinata, you cared about me when no one else would even care to look at me or even acknowledge me or me anything for my birthday like you have. Hey, how did you realize that it was me? You are stunning, Hinata, and I caught a glimpse of you fleeing from my apartment through my window. You're more attractive than Sakura. What I'm trying to say is that I'm in love with you, Naruto said, grinning affectionately at Hinata, adding, plus you care about how I feel and don't hit me when I do something wrong or if I say something stupid. Tears were streaming down Hinata's face as she said, for so long, she had been waiting so long to hear those words and was looking utterly shocked and flushed. What? What are you saying? I've been waiting so long to hear you say those words. And I can tell you now that you have, I also adore you. She screamed, trying not to cry, but failing, but not for long, as Naruto pulled her into a tender embrace. If I were to die now, I'd be happy, she thought to herself, creeping closer to his face until their lips met. Hinata was in a state of pure bliss as the passion in their kiss intensified because the longing and passion took over at this point. She felt a piece of herself break away and a new one grow in its place. She would no longer be the timid, shy girl who didn't believe in her own abilities. They withdrew. The Naruto compressed Hinata in a passionate embrace, but it was short-lived because the door flew open to reveal a demonized Gaara with a bloodlust expression on his face. Your blood is wanted by Uzumaki's mother. Gaara saw this and thought that killing Hinata would make him feel so much better, it would break him. He yelled, sending his arm at Naruto, who took the hit trying to protect Hinata. When Hinata started to gasp for air, the sand that was slowly crushing her started to surround her. This infuriated Naruto more than ever, and he raised his right arm, causing dark light to engulf it. The majority of the sand that was trying to crush Hinata dissipated, giving her some time. Darknessfalls will be risen again. As his altar took on its black splendor, Naruto screamed. You and the girl Uzumaki will not be saved by that. The sand will gradually crush her, ensuring that you will not be alone in the afterlife, therefore, die. As he pushed his arm toward Naruto, he said. When the incoming demonic arm struck Naruto's altar with full force, nothing remained of it in an instant. Naruto was in front of Gaara, grabbing him and throwing him through the window. Naruto followed him through the window and noticed that Gaara's arm had healed, which caused Naruto to growl. Die, you can't beat me, Uzumaki. In an attempt to get Naruto into his sand coffin, he said, but to no avail. He punched the ground, launching himself into the air in preparation for his attack. After adjusting his position and spinning to gain momentum, Naruto's first bullet was activated when the first pillar on his back struck him, saying, blackout first bullet. As his fist struck Gaara's face and sent him flying into a tree, he screamed. He called out in rage as the majority of the sand on Gaara had disappeared. Revealing his face, it felt like an ocean of sand engulfed him, causing him to grow until he was a raccoon demon in all its splendor. When all else failed to help him, Naruto resorted to using his final 2 bullets, launching himself in the air once more and firing his second bullet while shouting, blinding second bullet. When that failed, he fired his last bullet, saying, engulfing final bullet. He shouted, aiming for the demon's stomach, but it didn't work, so he failed. He thought as he fell to the ground, thinking that he would die here, not living up to his dream of being Hokage. But then he realized that he couldn't die yet, that he had to save Hinata, protect Sasuke from Orochimaru, and see if he could kill him. Gaara, Shikaku, had believed they had successfully covered Naruto in their sand coffin, but when it exploded, they saw that Naruto was different. His altar had changed. It was now larger and completely black, but it had a base with a deep crater in it that held a device of some kind. The hand at the bottom was made of 4 blade-like claws, and the rest followed as a covering to the shoulder where a device resembling a light bulb was seated. His face was covered by mask-like armor from his ears to his chin, and a mechanical-looking dragon wing emerged from his back. With fresh ambition in his eyes, he looked at Gaara and said, "This power, I like it, but there is a more important thing to think about." His wing flapped down, creating a gust that lifted him into the air. "Uzumaki, new tricks won't help you now," he shouted at Naruto, launching an air bullet. Naruto smirked as his arm started to absorb the shadows from all around him and launch it at Gaara while he screamed, "Shadow Shock Bullet." When Gaara asked in a feeble voice, "How are you so strong?" all of the sand on him melted away, causing him to fall to the ground. Gaara struck the ground hard enough to create a small crater, and Naruto fell to the ground directly next to him. "Because I fight to protect the people I care about, not for my own self-serving desires like you do. I was once hated for something I couldn't control, but I got friends who helped me get over my darkness. You can still be the same. You just need to find friends you can trust and who will protect you if you go back to the dark. I'll have no choice but to kill you." Naruto gestured to Gaara with his arm. At that moment, Temari and Kankuro grabbed Gaara and ran away. Gaara did something unimaginable as they were running away. "I'm sorry, Kankuro, Temari." After giving Gaara a quick glance, Kankuro said, "Don't worry about it." Naruto sighed in relief that it was finally over, but he blacked out as his arm began to emit a dark light that hurt his entire body. A week had passed since the terrible news reached Konoha. Orochimaru had killed the third Hokage, but he left his mark, taking Orochimaru's arms with him later that day. Naruto was getting ready for the funeral, his eyes glassy and lifeless, when he heard a knock on his bedroom door. "Are you okay, Naruto?" Hinata, who had only been discharged from the hospital for a day, asked feebly. After changing, Naruto hurried to his bedroom door and opened it to reveal Hinata in a black funeral gown with a black veil covering her face. "How are things going for you, honey?" "I'm good," he asked. Hiding his anguish behind his emotional mask, Hinata partially lifted her veil and kissed him. With a melancholy smile, she withdrew. "Naruto, would you kindly promote me one item?" Naruto shot her a, "Anything? Look, tell me you won't keep your emotions to yourself at his funeral?" "I promote Angel. Could you please calm me down if I get out of control?" As they walked out of the apartment, Hinata gave a nod. When they arrived at the memorial stone atop the Hokage monument, they discovered that it was packed, so Naruto and Hinata went to where Kakashi was waving at a spot in the front of the crowd. A few minutes before the ceremony began, a regular civilian approached Naruto and said something that should have killed him, but since Sarutobi had passed, the law was no longer valid, and most of the Anbu upheld it because they now knew the boy's heritage. "Hey demon, what do you think you are doing here for people of Konoha, not filthy demons?" The man was killed by Kakashi as soon as he concluded his speech. After an hour of people paying their respects to the man, 2 Anbu appeared in front of Naruto, carrying 3 jade boxes that were large enough to hold 1 scroll each and something that Naruto thought he would never see again: the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing. The ceremony had begun, and everyone, starting with the shinobi population, laid a white flower on his grave. Both Naruto and Konohamaru were crying uncontrollably, expressing their deepest feelings. "These belong to you, Lord Namikaze, in accordance with the Hokage's wishes in the event that something were to happen to him." After saying this and giving Naruto everything, the bird-masked nin disappeared in a puff of smoke. "Hey Naruto, go home, I'll be over later to talk to you, but right now I have to find someone," Kakashi said, vanishing in a cloud of smoke, as they were leaving. Hinata and Naruto headed out, hulling everything the Anbu had given him. As soon as they entered the room, Hinata started to change, but Naruto opened one of the jade boxes that belonged to him from Sarutobi and started reading it, which startled him. "Dear Naruto, if you're reading this, I'm dead, so I'm giving you one last mission to complete, and it's an SS rank 1. I'm sure you remember the Weasel Mask Anbu, who protected you from mobs until you were 7 years old. His name was Itachi Uchiha, and he was a double agent for me to spy on the Uchiha clan. 3 days prior to their attack, I ordered Itachi to kill them all, but he was unable to do so, so he asked a man named Madara Uchiha to kill the clan. However, he didn't make it out in time, because Sasuke arrived, and Itachi made Sasuke despise him in the hopes that he would one day be killed. This is where you come in, because sealed inside this scroll is a complete pardon for the crime that was labeled. Please Naruto, bring him back, and you will receive a substantial payment for this mission. Regards from Sasuke. Sarutobi. In that moment, Naruto took a blood oath to bring Itachi back, and when he opened the next jade box, he discovered that this scroll belonged to his father. Dear son, if you are reading this you are 16 or something forced Sarutobi to give this to you. As you know I'm the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze and your mother was Konoha's legendary Red Death Kushina Uzumaki. But sadly to tell you this I'm writing this right now because you will be an orphan your mother died minutes ago after giving birth to you. But what I'm about to do is unforgivable but I'm sure you'll understand. Before I go any further you might have Kekkei Genkai from your mother it's called the Necrogan it's a lot like the Sharingan and Byakugan it can copy techniques and see at a 360-degree angle and the chakra system in the human body. But it has 3 other things the Hyugas and Uchihas don't plus 1 that's like the Uchihas. For 1 it can control hellfire, 2 it can blow things up that don't have a chakra pulse, 3 it can increase your IQ to help you get out of dire situations like escaping death, and finally you can use a jutsu that can transport you and your enemies to a different dimension but this I do not recommend or ever use 1 it takes the reserves of an Anbu to use it and 2 it can destroy your body. Now that is out of the way I want to tell you that you have 3 relatives 1 is by blood the other 2 I adopted after they lost everything. The first is your uncle Nazaryu Uzumaki the last of the Uzumaki clan or as he calls himself Nazaryu Keita to throw off enemies the second and third are your adopted brother and sister Kakashi Hitaki and Enko Mitarashi this is where I let you go Naruto you should have gotten another scroll sealed inside or my will the deed to the Namikaze, Uzumaki estate and the deed to my fortune good luck son make me proud. Your father, Minato Namikaze, is loved very much. When Hinata heard him crying, she ran to console him and gave him a long, passionate kiss when he finally calmed down. There was a knock on the door, and Naruto ran to see it was Kakashi and Enko. The moment Enko saw the boy, she broke down in tears and gave him a tight hug. It's the happiest day of my life to see my baby brother alive, and I can't believe you're still here, she sobbed. Being your brothers, Enko and Kakashi, is a pleasure, he said not trying to cry but then a serious look came to his, I have a favor to ask of you too? He inquired. Anything, Enko and Kakashi exclaimed simultaneously. As Kakashi and Enko's faces fell, he said, I need help moving me and Hinata into our new house. As a broad smile spread across their faces, he said, what the invitation is for you also. In the event that During this time, Hamura and Kaharu, 2 members of Konoha's council, came up to Jiraiya, who was sitting atop the Hokage monument surveying the island for any remaining invaders. Jiraiya, you have been elected as the next Hokage, do you accept? Hamura inquired. No, I'm too busy to be Hokage, but there is another the slug Sannin Tsunade, I will go search for her in 4 days. Kaharu said, very well Jiraiya, we hope you are successful. He and Hamura then left. Jiraiya then departed to find Naruto Everything that Naruto and Hinata owned had been packed into storage scrolls by Naruto, Hinata, Kakashi, and Anko. To Hinata's dismay, the estate they arrived at was only half a mile from the Hyuga compound, but it was nonetheless stunning. It was a 6-story structure with a lovely garden in front that looked like a Chinese castle. Hinata and Naruto were astounded by the interior's beauty and cleanliness, considering it had been vacant for nearly 13 years. In order to save time, Naruto created 20 shadow clones to explore the house. Naruto and the group entered the family room, which was furnished with various antique weapons and other items. Following roughly 20 minutes of conversation, all of Naruto's clones dispelled themselves, giving Naruto complete memory. Naruto said those as his first words. This place is amazing. He discovered that the mansion had 30 rooms, including the master bedroom, a library, a forge, a weapons vault, and a private hot spring. After 10 minutes or so, everyone went off to find their own room. However, after Naruto dropped his bag on the enormous king-sized circular bed, Hinata followed him to the master bedroom, where she discovered Naruto had already started unpacking. Naruto? He inquired, hey Angel, what's up? To see if she needed anything. She blushed like a tomato and said, Since we are a couple now we should share a room. After giving it some thought, Naruto decided that she was correct. He approached her, kissed her, pulled away, and said, placing his forehead in front of her, "You're right, Angel, we will share this room." Jiraiya flew through the window, ruining the moment just as it was beginning to get a little intense. "Naruto, I came to talk to you. What do you need, pervy sage?" Expecting a shouting yahoo from the blonde, he said, "We need to leave in 4 days to find my old teammate Tsunade." Instead, he received a totally different response. He made Hinata blush by saying, "That's fine, but I'm not going anywhere without Hinata." He pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to her, saying, "Look, I got another apprentice. Okay, first let's see what elemental affinity you have, sweetheart." It split in half after she poured some of her chakra into it and it started to drip. The fact that a Hyuga would possess those two elements shocked Jiraiya. "Well, it looked like you to have more in common than I thought. But on the other hand, you'll be a very quick learner. I know a lot of water and ice jutsu. As for wind, I don't know a lot. Well, this is going to be one hell of a trip. You two make sure that you're at the North Gate at 5 a.m. 4 days from now," he said before disappearing into a smoke cloud. Naruto was investigating the weapons vault later that evening. He noticed a large fang in a glass case with a note attached, but there were other weapons as well, like halberds and a mace. Note to self: to gain the trust of the Mizukage, Gobi the five-tailed ice wolf finished forging a sword, and this is one of its fangs. Naruto had an idea, but Kazuma's guidance and assistance would be necessary. When Naruto returned to his room, he discovered Hinata asleep, curled up beneath the covers, and cuddled up to her before falling asleep himself. However, he ended up standing in front of Kazuma's cage rather than sleeping. With a lighthearted tone, Kazuma exclaimed, "Dud, about time you showed up." Naruto said gravely, "I have 3 questions for you, Kazuma." "Well, let her rip. First, I want to know if you could activate my Kekkei Genkai?" As if hosting a game show, Kazuma exclaimed, "Yes, I can, but it will hurt like hell for you, man." And now on to the next question. In the hopes of receiving a negative response, he asked, "Well, 2 is can I use alter power for anything else but darkness falls?" "Well, that's out of the blue, but yes, if concentrated right IY can be used to heal, or if a piece of your altar is willingly broken off, it stay like that until you die." "And my final question is, how did I activate stage 2 of my altar?" "Well, that was out of sheer willpower. You can do it again in 3 days, but with me here you won't have the same conscience I had, but it will hurt your arm, but only use it as a last resort for now, okay?" "Sure. But I do have one more question. I have an idea to make a sword for Hinata, but I'm at a loss. I have no idea how it should look." They brainstormed ideas for the next 4 hours until they came up with a brilliant one. "Hey, it could look like my old friend Ryo's altar blade. It cut and protect. I think it would be great for her." He disappeared from his thoughts, saying, "You know, you're right. I'll go get a couple of molds made when I wake up. Oh, and you can activate my Kekkei Genkai now." Kazuma was only able to chuckle at how much Naruto resembled him. It was 5 a.m. when Naruto woke up and looked at his clock. He then decided he didn't want to wake Hinata. After glancing at her sleeping form, he then got up, wrote her a note and some change, and hurried off to the Higurashi weapon shop, the only store he could trust. An elderly man was seated at the desk when Naruto entered. The man asked Naruto as he approached the counter, "Hello, may I help you?" The man grinned at the challenge and said, "Yes, I need a couple of custom molds made by the end of today if you can." As he produced several sheets of graph paper and gave Naruto a pencil, the man asked, "Well, what did you have in mind?" And Naruto began drawing. It began with 2 blades that were 2 feet wide and grew smaller as it reached 52 inches in length. In order to accommodate a wrist and forearm holster, they curved upward on the inside. Additionally, each blade had a tiny mechanism at the back that allowed the 2 to be connected. Just so you know, did you think of the blade in Ryo's last alter ego? If so, you're a Scried fan. With a gulp, Naruto thought he would have to do something really horrible. "Well, that's quite the weapon there. I'll start on it right away on one condition. Show it to me when you have finished it, cause I would like to sell it here in my store. I'll even split the profits with you." The man replied with a grin. "Sure thing, throw in a case for it and it's a deal. How long will it take to make though?" When the man handed Naruto a bill worth 6,236 yen, he said, "If I stat now, about 2 hours 3 tops, okay?" Naruto realized he was short on cash and promptly paid for it. He hurried to the only bank in Konoha that would allow him entry. As soon as he left, he took the deed to his inheritance out of his glove. As soon as he got there, he approached the clerk, showed her the paperwork, and asked her to sign activation papers. In exchange, he took out a sizable sum of money. As soon as he was finished, enough to cover his expenses for 2 weeks. After that, Naruto hurried to a supply store to get a few more things he would need to complete Hinata's gift. After securing everything in his glove, he headed to his preferred training area. He made the decision to practice his Necrogan as soon as he arrived. The worst thing he ever did, in his opinion, was to send some chakra to his eye. It seemed as though his eyes were melting. He screamed in agony as the pain knocked him to his knees. His mindscape took over his conscious state once more. He materialized in front of Kazuma's cage. Naruto screamed angrily, "Kazuma, what the hell just happened? Hey, I told you that it would hurt like hell, but since I did something for you, I want you to do something for me." Fearing for his life, Naruto questioned, "And what would that be?" Naruto complied with Kazuma's request and tore off half of the seal. "I've done some research on your body and I found a way to give you my power of the other side, but you have to rip the seal halfway off, then if I'm right you will be able to summon me out for a while." Kazuma exclaimed. However, something unexpected occurred. Kazuma sent Naruto a burst of golden energy. Kazuma grew smaller as Naruto absorbed more energy, until it came to a halt and Naruto was left gasping for air. When Naruto arrived at Kazuma's cage, he saw a man dressed similarly to himself, about 17 years old, with light brown hair. Fearing that Kazuma had deceived him, Naruto questioned, "Kazuma, is that you?" "Yeah, why do you ask? I'm the only 10-story tall fox in your mind." Naruto said, "Yeah, but you're not a fox anymore." Kazuma looked down to make sure he wasn't lying. Kazuma was jumping with excitement and shouting because he was once again human. He became calm after a few minutes and approached Naruto. Naruto hoped it wouldn't hurt him when he said, "Wow Kazuma, you really were human, but you asked for 2 favors. What's the seconded one?" "Simple, my friend, I just wanted you to change the background in here. A sewer gets really annoying after 13 years, ya know." Naruto would stop at nothing to repay him, so he asked, "Well, is there anything you had in mind?" He said, "Yeah, I was thinking my old home, if you can remember it." Naruto then entered a deep state of contemplation. A short while later, the sewer started to vanish and a room started to take shape. It appeared to be a cozy living room converted from an old, deserted dentist office. Kazuma ran around the house and exclaimed, "Wow Naruto, this is amazing, it looks just like my old home." However, Naruto saw that the seal on his back resembled the one on his stomach. Naruto said, "Hey Kazuma, that's not the only thing I did," as he opened the door to reveal the lost ground, his former city and homeland. Naruto said, "Everything out there is real for you, have fun Kazuma," as he emerged from his mental state. For some reason, he felt stronger now that he was back in the real world and asked himself, "Why do I feel stronger all of a sudden?" As Kazuma's voice replayed in his mind, he thought to himself, "I can say that your body raised its chakra to balance everything out when you absorbed my energy. This is just a guess, but I say your chakra level is low, Anbu." He assumed Kazuma was having fun since he didn't hear back to his statement, "Wow, that's cool, but I need to get in a little training in before I go pick up those molds." A few seconds after Naruto focused on a tree with his Necrogan, there was a boom, and the tree turned out to be nothing more than splinters. He then glanced at one of the dummies and visualized his fists burning, and sure enough, the black flame engulfed his fists. His hands pierced the dummy with scorch marks as he punched it. He was astounded by his abilities, so he turned on his eyes by Kugan stage. Sure enough, he could see for miles, and he saw Hinata still soundly asleep. Naruto decided to train with his altar by shouting, "Darkness Falls, be reborn." After glancing down at his shadow and estimating that it was 6:30, he trained diligently for the next 30 minutes. He discovered at that time that he could combine his alter ego with his ability to control hellfire. He hurried back to Higarashi's to retrieve his order. When it was time, the elderly man behind the counter was beaming broadly when he arrived. "Your order took less time to make than I thought, and I can say this will be one hell of a weapon. How long do you think it will take you to make?" The man was worried. "You'll be the first to see it in no more than 2 days," boastfully declared Naruto. When Naruto smelled his girlfriend's favorite food, he hurried to that stand. After leaving the store and heading home, he left with a bag of freshly baked cinnamon buns. 3 minutes later, he felt the bag warming up as he used his Necrogan to conjure up enough heat to keep them warm because he was afraid they might get cold. When he got home a few minutes later, he found Kakashi and Enko seated in the living room, chatting until they said he had entered. With a playful tone, Enko said, "Hey little bro, you're up a little early, aren't you?" As he was about to leave, Kakashi approached Naruto, looked into his eyes, and said, "Yeah, I had to run a few errands to run and to get a little training in for today, that's all." Kakashi pulled out a mirror and held it up to Naruto's eyes so he could see them. "Naruto, what the hell is with your eyes?" he asked. Each point pointed up, down, left, and right, and they were jet black with a blood-red shuriken-like design in the middle. Additionally, there was a blood-red tomo at the tip of each point, which slightly alarmed Naruto, but he chose to conceal it. Naruto shocked Kakashi and Enko by saying, "This is my Necrogan and I activated it yesterday, but I really have to go 3 days and me and Hinata leave with Jiraiya." Despite lying about his Kekkei Genkei, they remained silent. Hinata was just waking up when Naruto ran up to his room. He walked up to her, kissed her on the cheek, and said, "Morning angel, you sleep okay?" In a sweet voice since she wasn't completely awake yet. She nodded. He got another nod from her as she opened the bag, squealed, and planted a long, passionate kiss on Naruto. "I brought you a gift, but I have to tell you now I'll be busy for the next 2 days in the forge, but you can't peek at all what I'm doing. It's a surprise for you and I hate to ruin that for you." He picked up the sealing scroll after Naruto departed and proceeded to the forge. He claimed that when he first arrived, the space was still tidy and appeared to be operational. His Necrogun ignited with black flame as he focused on the forging tome. After creating 5 shadow clones, he sent them to retrieve Gobi's fang from the weapons vault. He then proceeded to the storage closet, which was the size of his former bedroom, to retrieve additional supplies he required. There were various metals and tools all around him, but the first thing that drew his attention was a shelf full of metal bricks marked chakra metal. He used his Necrogun to get the forging information he required. Naruto noticed his clones had returned with the fang as he collected the metals and tools. Okay, this is where you'll say what the hell, but don't. Next chapter, which I hope to have up in 2 days with lots of action. Naruto pulled out a forge cauldron of moderate size and opened the lid. The fang was inserted first by his clones. Next, Naruto positioned 1 adamantium brick, 3 titanium bricks, and 3 chakra metal bricks. Naruto finally concentrated his altar so that he only had a fist and a single pillar on his back reaching up. Naruto grabbed the pillar, tore it off, and put it in the cauldron in order to start the melting process. Naruto and his clones then raised the cauldron, put it inside the tome, and closed the flap. He was suddenly struck with the thought, where would she keep this weapon? Why can't he store anything else? He had a glove that could. After he unzipped everything inside and handed the clone a substantial amount of cash, he gave the clone his left glove and instructed it to go get one of Hinata's jackets. Kazuma's voice echoed in Naruto's mind as the clone departed the herd. "Hey Naruto, call me out. I feel useless here. I know a lot about how to put things together because I spent years working on a farm." "Sure, but just how do I do that?" Naruto followed instructions to just go through the seals for a regular summoning jutsu but no blood, and finally say my name, as expected. When he yelled, "Kazuma," and slammed his palm on the ground, Kazuma appeared in all his glory. "Well dude, what are you standing there for? Let's get to work," Kazuma yelled. Since it would be 3 hours before they could use the liquefied metal, Naruto sat at the table and said, "Yeah, I'm going to have a clone help you out. I'm going to give this thing more power by looking in this scroll for pointers." He then opened the scroll. He only had an hour and 10 minutes of chakra left to sustain himself, so he had arrived at the tailor's with time to spare thanks to the clone. When he entered, a woman was measuring cloth. The clone moved as slowly as he could toward the woman, and when he was close enough for her to hear him, he said, Excuse me, miss, can I get some help please?" "How may I help you today?" the woman asked with a smile as she turned around. He handed her the jacket and the glove and said, "Yes, I need a jacket just like this made with this type of fabric base, hopefully not leather." She approached a female mannequin and took the jacket's measurements. She went to a desk after finishing that, opened a book, and looked up the fabric type. She found it right away and laughed. "Sir, we have the fabric but not in the same color as that jacket. Do you still want it made?" "Yes, what colors do you have?" "Black, white, and lavender." "I'll take the lavender color, and if you could put the same seal on both sleeves just at the wrist." "Sure. How many do you want made?" "3 if you can." The clone paid for the jackets, took the glove and jacket, and left. "And that comes to 49,888 yen, and they will be ready in 2 days." The clone came upon a small jewelry store halfway back that appeared to be closing, so he went inside, approached the counter, and looked at some rings. Just before he left, he noticed a stunning triangular emerald ring, which was the size of a pea and surrounded by tiny diamonds. It was set in a white gold setting. Thank my brother for this. We went shopping and bought this same ring for his girlfriend." When he asked the clerk how much it cost, he smiled sadly and said, "Thank you for choosing it, but no one as of yet has been able to afford it." This caught the clone's attention because he knew she would adore it. "How much?" the clone practically yelled with a startled expression. The man looked up and said, "It's 99,776 yen." With tears in his eyes, the clone exclaimed, "I'll take it," and received an ear-to-ear smile in return. The man pulled out a sizing set and said, "Thank you sir, you just saved our small business. To show how much we owe you, we'll size it for free." The clone then performed the ram seal, giving Hinata's right hand a poof. "I've been thinking if they can transform their bodies to look different, why not just one limb?" As his right hand, after measuring the ring finger, He departed and returned a short while later carrying the ring and a tiny indigo box. The clone then left for home once more. In order to avoid the living room, it ran through the side door. It ran straight to Naruto's forge and handed him the seats. Naruto yelled, "I only told you to go to the tailor's. Good job, you did exactly what I would do." The clone smiled at him before scattering. Naruto had acquired 4 new jutsu skills while we were with the clone. The first one was extremely dangerous because it was a blood clone, which is a real flesh and blood clone. It only gives you physical and mental memory when it spreads itself. For example, if the clone gets cut and spreads itself, you get said cut. He created 4 blood clones and used them for the day to train his altar and Necrogan. The first seal memorizes your chakra so that only you can use it. If someone else tries to use it, they won't be able to because they will experience 10,000 bolts of electricity running through their body. Seals 2, 3, and 4 were all extremely complex. It took an hour to recharge after the second barrier cell, which could block 5 high-level jutsu or a supercharged attack, and lastly, a seal that helped you connect with your elemental affinities more quickly. Using his Necrogan once more, Naruto started writing on paper in an attempt to merge the 3 seals. An hour or so later, his efforts paid off. Using chakra, he charged the prototype, set it on a kunai, and threw another one on the ceiling. He then slashed at the kunai, slicing it in half. He then gave a clone a shuriken and instructed it to throw it at him. The clone did so, and a white barrier materialized into a dome that encased the entire body. However, it soon crapped out, cutting his shoulder. After making some minor adjustments, he tried the new seal and it was successful. Naruto's inventiveness continued after that, as he reasoned that he would require a weapon if he had insufficient chakra and was in over his head. He started designing his weapon after bringing some graphed paper with him, and after 30 minutes of work, he created a brand new broadsword. It was held together by tiny mechanisms and, when released, would extend a good 15 meters. His father invented a special metal coil, but it was never made public. Lastly, there were tiny spring-loaded blades in each of the 6 links, which would release themselves when the chakra surged back. I know what you're thinking, Zabumaru. Okay. Wrong. Zabumaru is alive. This isn't, and he's a halberd. This is a broadsword, so there. And while he was designing that, he created a gadget that could come in handy when you need it most. It was a claw launcher that employed the same spring-loaded technology and stretching alloy as the broadsword, but this time it had a range of at least a mile. It also used the same idea of chakra release and retraction as the broadsword, with the exception of a tiny switch at the base of each of the 3 claws that allowed you to either lock or unlock the claws. When it is extended, a tiny chakra pulse is sent. When it returns, it activates and spreads its claws. When it is locked, it does not. Yes, Zelda Twilight Princess. He was able to design the mechanisms in each weapon with the assistance of Kazuma and Naruto's Necrogan. Naruto wrote a note to Mr. Higurashi after taking a message scroll out of his pocket. Greetings, Mr. Higurashi. It's Naruto once more. I have a proposal for you as well as 2 new designs that you might find interesting. I'll be over at 9 o'clock sharp to discuss my proposal, but I need a mold of everything on these schematics, so I'm sending you 5 of my strongest clones to assist you. Write your response in this scroll and return it to the Toad if you agree. Regards, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto created 5 blood clones, called forth a messenger Toad, and dispatched them with sufficient funds to purchase the molds. He also provided the schematics to the first clone and dispatched them after noticing that he had only 30 minutes to use the metal. Naruto set the second forging tome on fire and sent 5 shadow clones to load it with another medium-sized cauldron, filling it with chakra metal and adamantium, and then placing it inside the tome. Kazuma, I'm going to go test this new seal. Hold down the fort, okay? The blonde nodded as Kazuma said, sure thing buddy, tell me how it goes. Naruto made the first stop at the weapon vault, where he retrieved an Anbu-grade katana and a broadsword. After engraving the seal on both blades with his newly acquired fire control, he went outside to watch Kakashi practice his taijutsu on a wooden log. Naruto yelled, hey bro, where is Sis and Hinata? To get his attention. Anko took Hinata out to train and said something about killing a stutter. Why do you ask? I need someone to help me with a new invention of mine. Can you help me? Kakashi gave Naruto a smile and said, sure, anything for family. After throwing Kakashi the Anbu blade and instructing him to shape his chakra into it, Naruto asked Kakashi to approach him with his lightning blade. No, he initially replied, but Naruto reassured him, don't aim at me, just the blade, trust me, you won't lay a scratch on it. 2 minutes later, Kakashi charged at him. His hand displaying the lighting. The white barrier came back to life just before impact, obstructing the powerful jutsu until it vanished. Naruto, what was that? After pouring enough chakra into the blade to create a shadow clone, Naruto slashed and exclaimed, That was the first part of my invention, now it's time for you to see the second, so use your blade to block this. The same barrier that shielded Naruto stopped a whirlwind of black flame from reaching Kakashi. Naruto handed the blade to Kakashi, who dropped it instantly from fear of electrocution. Well, that was stage 2. It lets the user get in touch with his elemental affinities, and last I bet you couldn't grab this sword's handle, Naruto said. Kakashi exclaimed in a slightly irate tone, "Jess, Naruto, what the hell was that?" That was 3. It memorizes you chakra, and any foreign chakra signature gets shocked. I took 3 of the most powerful seals from the scroll I inherited from Sarutobi and combined them. The first is the chakra memorizer from the first Hokage created before Konoha's founding. Same for the second Hokage made a seal to help activate his clan's chakra blood limit, and the last is a barrier seal made by my father to protect his precious people, but it can only be used 5 times before it has to recharge, which takes an hour. Naruto, that was pure genius. Nobody has ever done this. You'll be famous for it, Kakashi said, staring at Naruto with wide eyes. Naruto nodded his head and replied, "No, Kakashi, not yet, not for a few days. I've got an idea, but I need time to unveil it. You can come with me tonight at Higarashi's tonight at 9. Don't be late or you'll miss it. Oh, and keep the sword. No one but you can use it but you." When Naruto entered the forge, he discovered that the toad had come back and handed him the scroll, which he read. "Dear Naruto, I'll see you tonight. I accept your meeting, and your molds should arrive in 2 hours. Gazing up at Naruto, Kazuma inquired, "How did it go?" "A success, and now we can start the forging of Ryo's wings. Do you want to help?" Kazuma exclaimed, "Hell yeah, I do." As they prepared all 4 molds and put on their safety gear, the liquid metal was carefully poured into each mold using their combined strength and 2 clones. The fact that the cauldron was still half full when Naruto looked into it made him smile, because he would have enough for his blade. They spent the following few hours sharpening and smoothing each molded piece of the weapon after it had cooled, but Naruto sealed both halves of the heated blade before it had completely cooled. At last, Naruto submerged the blade in a pail of water to fully cool them. They persisted in honing each component until they could easily cut another blade. Then, with a sound of molds, the clones exploded through the door and landed on the ground. After noticing that it was 8:30, Naruto instructed the clones to begin using his blade and claw shot at 9. "Same drill as earlier," Naruto said to Kazuma just before leaving the forge. Kazuma nodded, and Naruto departed. Kakashi greeted him just before he arrived at the front door. Naruto motioned for him to follow him. They arrived at Higarashi's without incident. After walking for a few minutes, Tenten answered the door when Naruto knocked, and they proceeded to the dining room where the store clerk was preparing tea. When he asked, "Would any of you like some tea?" Naruto nodded, and Kakashi simply said, "No." Naruto broke the silence as the atmosphere calmed down. "Now down to business. I'll have all 3 weapons tomorrow in the late afternoon. I'll be able to show off my own personal blade, and Big Bro here will show off his claw shot that I'm making for him." "What about the twin connecting blades you came up with?" replied the man. "That is a gift to my girlfriend, and she won't get that until tomorrow night. But here is my plan. I don't want my creations to fall in the hands of enemy forces, so I have created a seal that will bond it to the owner's chakra and no one else might touch it. So this is where the seal comes in. It links to the owner's elemental affinities and brings them out, and it can cast a barrier to block even the most harshest attack, but only 5 times. Then it takes an hour to recharge. So now my conditions for you selling my creations is that every one of them must have the seal, and everyone who buys one has to show their ninja license and proof of Konoha citizenship. No ninja that does not belong to Konoha may purchase one, and finally every person who buys one must activate the seal right after they pay for it. Think of a no refund order." Naruto finished with the old man smiling like a crazed individual. "Sounds reasonable, but how do want to split the profits?" As he and Kakashi departed, Naruto declared, "Now that this is resolved, we'll take our leave. I'll take 45%, you can keep the rest." "Naruto, those designs of yours are brilliant. How did you come up with them?" replied Kakashi. "Really, I just wanted to make something to help protect Hinata and you and Anko, but it got out of hand and I made a big commotion, but it will get better. I'll talk to you tomorrow," Naruto said as the hours passed. He hurried to the forge right away to see everyone hard at work. Kazuma moaned and stood behind Naruto as he created his clones, and a moment later he fell into Kazuma's arms. "Okay Kazuma, I need your help to get me to my room because I'm low on chakra and I need to make more clones." The following morning, Naruto woke up in bed by himself. He got up, performed his rituals of mourning, and hurried to the forge to find his blade ready to be assembled and 1 clone remaining, completing the final set of the 5 claw shots that needed to be made. Naruto created 10-day-long clones and gave them instructions to complete the weapon's construction. Naruto ran to his training ground and trained with Kazuma in his altar and Necrogan for a few hours while his clones completed their work. He then walked to Ikaraku Ramon's stand for his customary 20 bowls of Ramon. When it was late afternoon, Naruto hurried home to retrieve the weapons and Kakashi to find Higurashi waiting. They sprinted to his location. He took out his blade and said, "Okay, where? Let's finish this up because I'm leaving tomorrow and I have some errands to run." Naruto confronted the test dummies that Mr. Higurashi had set out after drawing his freshly constructed blade. The dummy's left shoulder was sliced by Naruto's blade as he charged it, activated the seal on it, and swung it, releasing the links. Naruto released the spring-loaded blades by sending a burst of chakra into the blade before the dummy linked itself back together. He jerked the snake-like blade back, tearing it to pieces. As he charged more chakra into the blade, enough to create 10 shadow clones, Mr. Higurashi started to clap, but Naruto told him, "I'm not done yet." Then, with a slash, another whirlwind of black flame flew a new dummy, and when it subsided, nothing remained of it. Kakashi approached the next dummy, activated his claw shot's seal, and exclaimed, "I guess it's my turn." He pointed the claw shot at the dummy, and with a click, it grabbed its head and started to back away, taking the head with it. Kakashi nodded to Naruto, who said, "Well, that's the most of it, but there is one more feature to them. Ready, bro?" Kakashi locked and aimed the claw at Naruto, who had his swords in front of him in a defensive stance. The claw shot launched at Naruto with another click, but a white barrier came to life just in time to deflect the blow. Mr. Higurashi applauded at this point because his store would now sell well-liked weapons. "Those are some pretty powerful weapons. What are their names?" When Naruto approached Mr. Higurashi and handed him a folder, the elderly man gave him a perplexed look. In this folder it has more details on how to build them and how to put them together step by step, and finally there is a copy of my seal, and I'm only going to say this once: anybody other than the Hokage ask for that seal, do not let them have it or our deal is null and void. Naruto grinned because he already knew the answer. "This here is my razor maelstrom. The one big bro over there is called the claw shot, and the first one I had you make molds for is called Ryu's wings," he remarked. "As a former shinobi, I can assure you that no one will obtain this seal." As Naruto and Kakashi left, Tenten approached him and asked, "Father, why are you crying?" He exclaimed with tears in his eyes, "Because that boy right there just saved our shop from bankruptcy." At the bank, Naruto and Kakashi parted ways. That Naruto thought, why not just get Hinata a gift? He had a family, so he ought to get presents for everyone. Naruto entered, took out another large sum of cash, and left. He divided the money among the 3 shadow clones he created. He sent one clone to the tailors to pick up the orders, another to the supply store to pick up rations for at least a month, 2-person camping gear, and a tent for Jiraiya, and the final one to that tiny jewelry store to get Anko something. After searching for Jiraiya, Naruto discovered him at the hot springs, directly in front of the women's section. The new Ik Paradise had not yet been released, but Naruto knew Jiraiya had something. Kakashi would die for Naruto had to bribe him with 2 things. First, he had to stop calling him pervy sage, and second, he had to give him one of his newly designed weapons, which he would have given him anyhow. He received hugs and thank yous from everyone when he was with the clone at the jewelry store, but it stopped, which made him unhappy when he discovered the ideal piece of jewelry for Anko. He perused their merchandise. It was a diamond-shaped kunai that was fastened to a yellow gold chain. To get the clerk's attention, the clone said, Miss, how much is that one there?" "Again, you have a good eye. That one is 53,549 yen, she replied. "I'll take it, so wrap it up," the clone half yelled after the clerk left. She came back a short while later carrying the necklace in a purple, long box. After thanking her, he walked out. Later that evening, while Jiraiya and the rest of the gang were chatting in the living room, Naruto got caught in the act. Hinata's stuttering was hardly noticeable. However, the conversation quickly stopped when Naruto began to make a statement. He opened 3 boxes, 1 large, 1 medium, and 1 small, and said, "Okay, I just wanted to say, Hinata, you know I love you, so I got you a few gifts." Instead, he gave them to her, and she was sobbing when she opened the little box first. She then threw herself at him and gave him a passionate kiss. The other people in the room were laughing. To repeat her first action, Hinata let go and opened the next box, which contained 3 lavender jackets similar to her previous ones but with the Uzumaki clan crest on the sleeves. Hinata was also perplexed by the final one. Like her hair, the twin arm blades were dark violet. But why was Naruto giving her weapons? Not because she didn't like them. "What, you don't like them?" she timidly questioned. "It's not that I don't like them, but why are you giving me weapons?" "This is actually a joint weapon that I made to protect you from harm. Not only can they hurt, but they also act like a shield to protect you. And I also had those jackets made with the same fabric as my left glove, and I had 2 special seals put on the sleeves so that you have easy access to them, and as long as they exist I'm alive. If they disappear, well, let's just hope they don't. I'll even show you how they work," he said as he raised the blades. Then Enko pouted and said, "Hey Naruto, that's very rude that you forgot about your big brother and sister." He unwrapped 3 boxes in a wrapped rectangle, then gave one to Jiraiya, the rectangle to Kakashi, and the final 2 to Anko, who said, "I forgot Kakashi got half his gift and I'm about to give them to you before me and Kakashi show how these weapons work. Oh, and Anko, I made sure yours was extra sharp," he said. After a few seconds, Anko had opened the first box and Kakashi had given him his gift. Both of them gaped at Naruto and gave him a bear hug. Later, they all watched Naruto wield Hinata's blades from outside. They noticed that the grip had a button that allowed them to switch between a blade and a shield, similar to a gauntlet, or they could attach to the full blade, similar to a shield. He gave them back and explained how to activate the seal. She did so and sealed them away in her new jacket, and Naruto and Kakashi showed her how the weapons and seal worked. "I call these Ryu's wings. I designed them just for you and I put a piece of my altar in it so that you'll always have me with you and to let you know I'm alive," he said. Naruto had a bad feeling about this trip, so he went down to the weapons vault and sealed 3 Demon Wind shurikens and 5 Fuma shurikens into his glove while Hinata and he were packing later that night. He also sent 8 clones to the library to look for clan jutsu because he knew he would need some new techniques in his toolbox. They retuned about an hour later with a tone of Uzumaki scrolls, but no namikaze techniques. Even a book about the Uzumaki taijutsu had been brought to him. He sealed the forbidden scroll of sealing and all the other scrolls into a storage scroll. Following that, Naruto and Hinata fell asleep peacefully until Kazuma woke him up at around 4:30 in order for them to change and make their way to the gates. Naruto gently woke Hinata. They found Kakashi and Jiraiya waiting for them when they got there. "Hey big bro, are you coming too?" He handed Naruto an old diary and said, "No, I'm just here to give you this. It was your mother, and every full moon she would go into a trance for 3 days and when she came out of it, she wrote in this all day. I tried to read it once but didn't get anything she was talking about." He vanished in a puff of smoke as the 3 set out to find Tsunade. Naruto grinned. After traveling for a full day, they made a stop in a small town, where they rented a room for the night. Jiraiya then went off to look up information about Tsunade. An hour or so later, Naruto had begun reading the diary and Hinata was curled up in his arms when the door was knocked on. After rising and making his way to the door, Naruto sensed 2 powerful chakra signatures. One was something he had never experienced before, and the other didn't make sense to him at the age of 7. As he left the room, 2 men in black cloches with red clouds on them stood in front of him. "Hinata, whatever happens, do not come out of this room," she said, nodding. One was Itachi Uchiha, and the other appeared to be a mutant fish. Naruto smirked at this. "Hello Itachi, you look well. Other than your eye look like they're fading." Itachi said without emotion, "Naruto Uzumaki, you will accompany us." The fish man began to laugh and exclaimed, "So this is the boy who holds the 9-tailed fox. Doesn't look like much. Let me cut off one of his legs so he doesn't get away." "What's so funny, brat?" he asked Naruto. He ran through the seals and yelled, "Kazuma," before Kazuma appeared in front of the 2 men in a puff of smoke. "You think I have the fox? That's a riot. There is no such thing. To prove it, I'll summon him," he said. The 2 men were taken aback by what they saw, and he remarked, "He is right. There is no 9-tailed fox. I turned into a fox as I came into your world looking for a man named Mujo." Naruto said, "Itachi, I wanted to let you know that you've been forgiven for your crime so you can return to Konoha." As a voice began to yell at Itachi, he saw Sasuke when he turned around. "Itachi, today you die," he cried as he charged at Itachi while holding a Chidori. Itachi accidentally broke Sasuke's wrist by grabbing it before he could strike. As Sasuke's cries could be heard, he threw him to the opposite end of the room and performed his Tsukiyomi on him. Itachi then approached Naruto slowly and spoke. As Itachi blew a hole in the wall and departed, he exclaimed, "We'll be in Konoha in 1 month. We will see you then." As soon as he entered the room, Jiraiya yelled, "What the hell happened here and who the hell are you?" and pointed to Kazuma. "And to answer your first question, we just had a run-in with a hero that saved both me and old man Hokage from certain death," Naruto said, startling Jiraiya. "This is Kazuma, or you might know him as Kyuubi." Guy then rushed in and kicked Jiraiya, leaving shortly after, with Sasuke asking Jiraiya to bring back Tsunade. Following that change, everyone calmed down, and when Naruto and Kazuma finished telling their story, Hinata and Jiraiya were left perplexed. "Well kids, I guess I'll start your training tomorrow, so get some sleep. I'll be back in the morning and we'll leave for the next town." Naruto couldn't sleep later that night, so he stayed up reading his mother's diary, which was strange because he understood what she was talking about. "This is your world, Kazuma, but how?" "Well, it's my world she's talking about because your dad did say in his letter that your eye could lead to another demotion. However, she has a lot of intricate drawings of a car." "Hey, I just had a really cool idea. If we can hide one of my world's cars, you could have a chakra-powered car here." "How will we do that?" When Kazuma finished, He opened some of his clan scrolls and the scroll of sealing and started reading. By morning, he had learned 2 wind jutsu and 3 flame jutsu. When Jiraiya told him to prepare to leave, "I'm going to send you a mental image of everything I need and you need to imagine it here and I'll tell you when I figure it out." Jiraiya had demonstrated the Rasengan, a jutsu, to Naruto and Hinata along the way. Unfortunately for Jiraiya, Naruto was able to defeat the jutsu on his first attempt because his Necrogan was activated. However, Hinata encountered difficulties after making it as far as the rubber ball stage. Despite Naruto's best efforts, she continued to refuse his assistance. However, he was able to teach her 2 jutsu, the Shadow Clone and the Blood Clone, which ultimately greatly aided her. However, his training was far busier than hers. He would create 10 Shadow Clones, have half of them read the book on his clan's taijutsu and the other half perform kunai balancing. After assigning his clones their tasks, Naruto would create 15 blood clones. The first 5 would practice both stages of his alter ego, the next 5 would train with his Necrogan and jutsu, and the last 5 would draw gravity seals on each limb, making each seal weigh 100 pounds for a week. He performed this daily, and each time he expelled his clones, they immediately passed out from exhaustion and chakra depletion. It had been a week since Naruto and Kazuma had spoken, and when he passed out, he was standing in front of Kazuma. Kazuma walked out the door with Naruto following him, saying, "Dude, it's about time you got here. I finished our little project prototype, follow me." Naruto noticed a jeep similar to the one Kazuma drove in his world when he went outside. "Wow, you made this." He showed him how to operate it, which wasn't difficult. You charge enough chakra into the steering wheel to start it, and putting enough chakra into the wheel to equal 1 shadow clone could get you 20 miles. Yup, and it doesn't run on anything but chakra, and the best part, it doesn't take a lot to go a long way. He said. They paused at a cliff overlooking the ocean to watch the sunset while Kazuma was teaching Naruto how to drive. Naruto glanced at Kazuma, who appeared to be thinking deeply. "Kazuma, you okay, man?" "Yes, I was thinking about the Rasengan. It's made of pure chakra, but what if you added you elemental chakra to it? How strong would it be?" "I'll try it the second I wake up tomorrow. But first summon me first so I can start the schematics on this car." "I'll start right away." Naruto said. "Okay, but that will be sooner than you think," as he started to disappear. In his tent, he woke up with Hinata curled up beside him. He broke free of her hold and stepped out into the crisp morning air. He called forth Kazuma by flashing through the summoning seals. As soon as he did, he took out a scroll and opened it to reveal a massive pile of graph paper, pencils, pens, and a sharpener. Naruto said, "This should hold you for a while," as he left. Naruto had finished painting the second Hokage's seal on his right hand, then placed his glove back on and formed a Rasengan in his hand. Then came the hard part. He began to load his wind and hellfire chakra into the Rasengan, and it started to elongate into a cylinder bullet shape, and it held for a few seconds, then it blew up in his face. "Hey, try doing that with your altar. That power will break your arm," Kazuma yelled. Naruto was mad. He knew he could do this, but then a thought popped in his head. It would only take less time if he used clones. He slit his wrist slightly to draw some blood and made 30 blood clones. He made 10 work with the gravity seals and his family's taijutsu, and the rest were with him to work on the jutsu. All 20 clones plus Naruto activated their altar and Necrogan, and they began the process of maintaining it. The longest that it could be held was 2 minutes. The longer it was held, the more violent it spun. About 3 hours later, he was low on chakra, so he let the clones dispel themselves and gained what little chakra they had left and walked over to Kazuma. "Hey dude, you got far, and so did I. In fact, I'm done," he said proudly. "Good, you can hand over the section on molding and forging," said, not even getting a bit of retaliation from Kazuma. "Yeah, well, I'm bushed. I'm going to go get some sleep. Talk to you later," Kazuma said in a big yawn and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto pulled 1 storage scroll and 1 message scroll and sealed the schematics and a large sum of money inside the scroll. Next, he wrote a message to Old Man Higurashi. "Greetings, Mr. Higurashi. Naruto again. Right now I'm away from Konoha and I'm sure you busy, but I have a big project I'm working on the second I get back. But no, it's not a weapon, but will be just as great. I not only need you to make the molds but also forged each piece in the storage scroll or the schematics and a down payment. But please do this for me. I'll repay you somehow. Sincerely, Naruto." Then Naruto summoned a messenger toad using half his remaining chakra and sent it off to its destination. Just as Naruto finished the transition, Jiraiya showed up yelling, "I found her. She is 1 mile from here, so get ready. We leave now." They stopped running up a stone-fenced hill after a while when they noticed a young woman with short black hair in a black kimono holding a pig, and another woman with blonde hair wearing a green short-sleeved jacket with the words, "Slug Queen," on the back. However, that wasn't what captivated Naruto. He sensed Orochimaru's energy, also known as Mujo's, in the air, and his only thought was, he was here now. Where did he go? He searched everywhere with his Necrogan but was unable to locate him. Tsunade, long time no see. Jiraiya, to what do I owe this displeasure? I have some matters to discuss with you. As she walked away, she said, all right, let's just move to a more bearable environment. 10 minutes later, Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya sat in a bar across town from Tsunade. Her apprentice Shizune, and her pig Tun. Once they were comfortable, Tsunade took out a deck of cards, dealt them to Jiraiya and herself, and then, when she finally broke the awkward silence, they started playing poker. She took a big sip from a bottle of sake and said, so what is it you need from me, Jiraiya? I'm sure you didn't come to chat, did you? Tsunade gave him a stern look before snorting. I'm here because you have been elected as Hokage and I'm to bring you back, he exclaimed. She sarcastically remarked, no, only a fool who wants to die an early death would ever want to be Hokage. However, those words were the worst mistake she had ever made because they deeply offended him. Hinata attempted to reassure Naruto as she sensed his growing desire to kill. Naruto, I know you're mad, but please calm down, she begged. With his Necrogan blazing, he looked at Tsunade and said, I'm sorry, Angel, but I've got to give her a piece of my mind. And you? How dare you insult my father and old man Sarutobi? They were real heroes unlike you. A old hag hiding behind a genjutsu to mask your age. If you ever insult them in front of me again, I don't care if you are a woman, I'll beat the hell out of you. He screamed as Tsunade got up and exclaiming. Is that a challenge, brat? He shouted, yes it is, how about we take it outside? And she nodded, trailing him out of the bar. Each of them chose a side of the road, Tsunade said. Raising one finger, Hinata shouted as she rushed out of the bar. Naruto, please be careful. I will, Angel. I only need this one finger to beat you, she exclaimed, trying out his family's taijutsu. Naruto muttered, whatever, and charged at her, his fist blazing with hellfire. However, he was unsuccessful because Tsunade blocked his third punch. Then she sent him across the street with a flick of her forehead. Naruto needed to finish this quickly because he was already exhausted from his training earlier today. Tsunade questioned him, hey brat, why do you care so much about the title Hokage? When he said, because that is my dream, I want to protect the village and my precious people. Tsunade gave him a startled look. She lowered her head, her mind plagued by thoughts of her deceased brother and boyfriend. When Naruto noticed this, he attempted to exploit it. He formed his new unstable Rasengan and charged at the Slug Sannin after using up all of his chakra. When Tsunade realized the impending attack, she jolted out of her reverie and slammed her finger into the ground, creating an 8-foot-long and 1-foot-deep crack in the street that caused Naruto to fall face first. His jutsu struck the earth, creating a crater that was 5 feet deep and red-hot. Jiraiya, what do you think you're doing teaching the boy a powerful technique that he will never be able to learn? Tsunade asked, turning to face Jiraiya. Jiraiya opened her mouth to say something, but Naruto interrupted. He stood up and gripped his right arm, letting small drops of blood drip from his fingers. He didn't teach me this. I took the Rasengan and added my elemental affinities to it. I call it the Rasen Hell Bullet. It's not done, but I'll finish it in 3 days, you'll see, he said. Tsunade, however, did not notice the blood. You seem pretty confident about this. Well, I'll make you a bet. If you can finish that jutsu in 1 week, I'll come back to Konoha with you. Hell, I'll even throw this necklace that belonged to my grandfather, the first Hokage, in, but if you lose you have to hand over to me, she said while awaiting his response, and received a smile. Following that, Naruto and Hinata headed to a nearby hotel to spend the night. Shizune left Jiraiya and Tsunade at the bar. As they departed after returning inside, they ordered more sake and discussed their previous activities. Tsunade then posed an odd query. So what made you take the container of Kyuubi and a Hyuga as your apprentices? Jiraiya turned to face her and spoke, Naruto is a container, yes, but believe me when I say this, there is no such being as Kyuubi. Plus, he is the son of Minato and Kushina. As for Hinata, she is Naruto's girlfriend. He asked me take her on too. The girl has been through a lot. She has almost died twice and she was disowned. If not for Naruto, she might have killed herself, Jiraiya said in a shocking manner. Wow, Jiraiya, you sure know how to choose your students. Yes, I do, but there is a bigger matter we have to deal with. What did Orochimaru want from you? The expression on Tsunade's face was, oh crap. She ended the conversation by saying, we just talked, nothing more or less, so it does not concern you. Naruto woke up the following morning, showered, and ate a little before opening the door to go, only to find Shizune standing there. Hello again, I need to tell you something, she replied. Then he said, what is it? She got a look from Naruto that indicated he understood her when she said, I know you made that bet with Lady Tsunade, but you cannot accept that necklace. It may be valuable, but everyone else who has ever worn it has died. It serves as a reminder to her past. Naruto walked off to train with a renewed sense of resolve, saying, listen, I'm not interested in the necklace. All I care about is proving her wrong and getting her to Konoha. After discovering an empty clearing, Naruto created 10 shadow clones and 50 blood clones, which depleted half of his chakra. He gave the shadow clones instructions to read the forbidden scroll of sealing and his clan's methods. He then instructed 10 blood clones to practice his clan's taijutsu and increase the weight of the gravity seals to 200 pounds. He created 5 blood clones for jutsu and necrogan training, and another 5 for his alter training. When he activated his alter ego and began using the resin hell bullet, he had the remaining 30 clones working alongside him. Hinata went to locate Tsunade, who was only 3 rooms away, while Naruto was away training. When she knocked on her door, Tsunade did indeed answer. As Tsunade put it sweetly, "Well, if it isn't Hinata, what can I do for you, my dear?" "Well, I was wondering if you could teach me a few medical techniques?" she replied timidly. This made Tsunade smile. "Jiraiya wasn't lying when he told me you had a confidence problem, but I first need to know what your elemental affinities. Do you know what they are?" Hinata gave a nod. "Wind and water." Tsunade's smile widened even more. She was a Hyuga who was interested in medical arts and had a connection to water that only strengthened the methods. With those words, Hinata became Tsunade's temporary apprentice. "Great, come on in, I'll start your training right now." He practiced his new jutsu with Naruto back on the ground until he had hardly enough chakra left to stay awake. He would set up his tent, go to bed, and repeat the process the following day. Over the course of 5 days, he made some progress with the Risan Hell Bullet each day. 3 new hand sealless techniques that channeled through his sword were developed by Hell's clones. Okay, you will only see one of his new jutsu and one of his clan jutsu in this chapter. He learned 1 clan art jutsu and 1 jutsu from the Forbidden Scroll. However, he went overboard and fainted from a severe chakra drain on the 5th day. Naruto was fortunate that Shizune had been watching him. Tsunade checked on him after she picked him up and brought him back to the hotel. She inquired, "So how is he, Lady Tsunade?" "He has both severe chakra and fire burns, plus he has exhausted all his chakra. The earliest he'll wake up is 3 days from now. Looks like you lost, kid." Tsunade turned to leave. Shizune tried to stop Tsunade by saying, "Lady Tsunade, I know what tomorrow is and I can't let you go through with it." Tsunade said, "Shizune, you have no idea what I plan on doing, so shut up." Before putting the poor girl to sleep, she took a sobering pill on her way to the bar Jiraiya, which reduces the effects of alcohol by half, so she could perform at her best. In a few hours she and Jiraiya spent the night drinking until she put a drug in his sake and made him unconscious. She then traveled to the location where she would meet Orochimaru. When Naruto woke up 3 hours later, he discovered Shizune's unconscious body on the ground. He woke her up without delay. Shizune asked, looking up at Naruto before going wide-eyed and frantically grabbing Naruto's jacket. "What day is it? What time is it? It's Monday morning. Why?" Attracting Naruto's attention, Shizune exclaimed, "Tsunade is going to meet Orochimaru to make a deal with him." As he ran to the window, Naruto created a shadow clone and gave it instructions to remain with Shizune. She inquired, "Where are you going?" "To pay that bastard Orochimaru a visit," Naruto exclaimed as he took off, searching for Tsunade and using his Necrogan's Byakugan feature. She was fighting, which shocked him when he discovered her in a matter of seconds. However, she was battling Kabuto, the man who had aided him in passing the second Chunin exam. Naruto ran faster as a result. Naruto was only a few seconds away when he saw Kabuto sprinting toward a blood-covered Tsunade who was poised to deliver a fatal blow while flashing through 10 hand signals and jumping in the air. Black flame engulfed Naruto's right arm as he finished his hand signs, screaming, "Uzumaki Art! Hell Dragon Jutsu!" As Kabuto was struck by a dragon formed of black flame, Kabuto leapt back to Orochimaru's side with hardly any effort. Naruto drew his sword and said, "Well, Orochimaru, it's good to see you in bad health, or should I say Mujo?" In one swing, the blade split apart and formed a whirlwind of black flame, taking the split blade and sucking it in the vortex as Naruto screamed, "Uzumaki Art! Necro Maelstrom!" Seeing the attack coming, Kabuto slammed his palm to the ground and bit his thumb, calling forth a massive wall with a face on it before it vanished. Naruto's attack struck the wall and caused a large dent in it. Orochimaru, also known as Mujo, grinned as he spoke, "So you know who I am. It doesn't matter, you'll have to do better than that to beat me or my associate here." Naruto said, "Oh, I'll do better than that," as he established a mental connection with Kazuma. "Hey Kazuma, are you interested in joining this fight?" "Hell, I do." Astonished, Orochimaru said, "Well, Mujo, an old friend of yours would like to play." Naruto called forth Kazuma. He was about to do this when Hinata, Shizune and Jiraiya showed up. However, Tsunade yelled at Naruto because she was certain he would be killed. "Naruto, get away, they're too strong for you, they'll kill you," she said, though she had to do this. Hinata also wanted to say something. With venom in his voice, Naruto said, "Shut up, you old grandma, this is something I've got to do besides what's scarier, blood or dying without accomplishing anything." "Naruto, you take the guy on the left, I'll take Mujo for now," Kazuma replied. Kazuma and Naruto both raised their right arms and sheathed their swords. Then Naruto yelled his new favorite line, "Darkness falls, be reborn." His and Kazuma's arms broke into 3 pieces and were reassembled using rings. Naruto had revealed to Jiraiya and Hinata that she was a witch. Rewind 2 weeks ago. Kazuma was frantically attempting to activate his altar but was unsuccessful while Naruto trained his Necrogan. With a nod from the blonde, Kazuma remarked, "Well kid, it looks like I really don't have an altar anymore, so I might as well work on yours." With a shout of, "Darkness falls, be reborn," Naruto assumed his position, and his altar arose. However, at that point, Kazuma's altar also started to take shape. Okay, if you're not familiar with the appearance of either Kazuma's or Naruto's altar, look it up because it's difficult to describe, and Naruto's altar is in Chapter 1. Both of them were taken aback. "How did you just activate your altar, Kazuma?" As he and Naruto engaged in the largest powerhouse spar in Naruto's life, Kazuma remarked, "I think you have to have your altar activated for me to use mine, which is cool because we can now have an altar spar." Kazuma's victory. Flashback at the end, Orochimaru and Jiraiya, who were extremely tired, followed Kazuma as Naruto and Kazuma ran towards Kabuto. Kabuto was struck squarely by Naruto's blackout first bullet. To begin the battle, however, Kabuto simply stood back up as though nothing had occurred. As Kabuto charged at Naruto while yelling, "Chakra scalpel," and flashing a series of hand signals, he said, "That was a strong attack, but you'll have to do better to beat me." Naruto used his special taijutsu in an attempt to save his final 2 bullets with his Necrogan flaring. His hand was covered in black flame following a barrage of Naruto's blows. Kabuto saw an opening and struck Naruto's left arm with his chakra-charged fists, temporarily rendering it useless. Naruto cried out because the pain was so intense. Jiraiya and Kazuma were in a terrible situation. Manda, who was not pleased, was somehow summoned by Orochimaru. Mujo, as Kazuma kept calling him Jiraiya, was still unable to use much of his chakra, and Kazuma was nearing the end of his ammunition. Mujo turned to face Naruto, who had just used his last bullet and missed, and Kabuto had used his chakra scalpel to strike Naruto's leg. Mujo's smile was widened by the witch. "Kabuto, forget the boy and finish Tsunade and take the girl, she may be useful to me," instructed Mujo. Using his chakra scalpel, Kabuto struck Naruto's chest and spoke. After saying, "Now you will slowly die as your heart collapse in on itself." He slapped him aside and ran toward Tsunade in an attempt to shield Tsunade. Hinata ran in front of her after opening her Ryu's wings. Kabuto paused, took Hinata by the neck, and held her while whispering in her ear after saying, "I'll enjoy watching Lord Orochimaru experiment on you." He threw her away and swung a kunai at Tsunade. However, it struck something black rather than her. It turned out that the black object was Naruto, who was encased in black energy. With his alter ego transformed, Naruto screamed in a demonic voice, "You made 2 mistakes just now, bastard. You hurt my girlfriend and attacked one of my friends." His arm vanished and reformed once more, had a demonic yet mechanical appearance, and a dragon wing-like structure developed on his back. With a shout, he withdrew his arm and pushed it into Kabuto's stomach. Shadow shock bullet burst. Kabuto is launched into the air. Even though Naruto could feel his heart slowing down, he was unable to stop. He turned to watch Jiraiya and Kazuma fight. Kazuma had just been chewed to death, and Jiraiya was on the ground. Keep in mind that he is a summon and cannot yet die, in addition to being a part of Naruto. Naruto believed he had one chance after witnessing Mujo's strength without his arms. His incomplete Rasengan. He shaped his Rasen Hell bullet in his modified hand using the last of his chakra. However, it was completely stable this time. Leaping into the air, he rushed towards Manda and Orochimaru, his arm outstretched, tearing through Manda's mouth and striking Mujo while yelling, "Rasen Hell bullet." The force of it sent Mujo flying back at least 70 yards in addition to hurting him. Regretfully, Naruto did not murder him. He managed to get away with Kabuto's assistance. Naruto wanted to pursue them, but his heart stopped beating and he collapsed to the ground. Hinata and Tsunade sprinted to Naruto's side. Tsunade checked but couldn't find his pulse. She tore open his shirt and attempted to restart his heart with her chakra. However, she and Hinata were crying after the 6th attempt. However, Hinata was sobbing uncontrollably. She blurted out, "Naruto, don't die on me. You promised to marry me, so you can't die." As 2 luminous tears streamed into Naruto's mouth, Naruto's heart started beating as soon as the tears fell, and he opened his eye and spoke. Naruto passed out as he declared, I am going to marry you, and grandma, that necklace is mine now. Together with Hinata. Tsunade removed the necklace around Naruto's neck and grinned, thanking Kami for his survival. When they all gathered in Tsunade's room the following day, Naruto was fully recovered and she had a message for them. Okay, listen up, since Naruto won the bet, I'm going to come back with you to be Hokage, and as such, Jiraiya, you'll have to give me a full report and date when you leave and return to the village. Tsunade replied with a groan, and I wanted to say something about you, Hinata. You have a gift that hasn't surfaced in your clan for 100 years. They're called the Tears of Rebirth, which, as I was told, could heal any wound or disease that it comes in contact with, so that is why I'm taking you under my wing for both protection from your clan, for they will want to make you into a baby factory, and the second is you'll be my apprentice because you have shown the most raw talent I've seen in years. Hinata was both shocked and ecstatic by this, and she gave Tsunade a tight hug while repeatedly thanking her. Although Naruto was ecstatic for her, he recalled the task Sarutobi had given him, so he took the documents out of his glove and gave them to Tsunade. Since you're going to be Hokage, you'll need this. It's a pardon that was given to me, and old man Sarutobi's will for Itachi Uchiha. He'll be coming back to the village in 3 weeks with his friend the Jolly Blue Giant, which, if I'm right, he'll want to join the village, and this must not be discussed with anybody because it's a double S-ranked secret mission given to me. The group started their 3-day journey back to Konoha a few hours later. Following their return, Naruto and Hinata went straight home, where Anko and Kakashi gave them both heart-stopping embraces. However, he discovered that they ought to be aware of Kazuma since they genuinely cared about him. Telling them, "Hey sis, bro, I've got something you should know about," Naruto captured their interest. They both said, "What is it, Naruto?" simultaneously. Naruto used his summoning seals to call forth Kazuma, frightening both Anko and Kakashi. "This is Kazuma, or you might know him as Kyuubi, but he is not, but it's not my place to tell you his story, so Kazuma, if you could." "Yes. My name is Kazuma, and yes, I was the 9-tailed fox due to an accident coming into your world, but I did not attack your village, but one man who took everything from me, his name is Mujo, or you might know him as Orochimaru. He killed my wife Kanami and took my friend Ryuhou away, and I believe he is dead, but I followed him here. My body had changed and was tired, but before I fell asleep, a man who was in severe pain with white eyes found me. Being the kind person I am, used a little of my altar to help him, and his eyes became red. Then I passed out. When I woke up, I felt Mujo's energy, and I followed it to this village where you thought I was attacking and attacked me, so I defended myself. Then before I knew it, I was sealed inside Naruto's body, and the rest is history." Now that the truth was out, Anko and Kakashi both accepted Kazuma, but they were both sad and harbored a fresh hatred for Orochimaru. Naruto then stated that he needed to run some errands. After making a quick stop at the bank and taking a reasonable amount out of his account, he and Kazuma hurried to Higarashi's shop to retrieve his order. They noticed that elderly Higurashi had just completed selling a razor maelstrom to an Anbu when they entered. "Naruto, long time no see." "Hey Mr. Higurashi, is my order done?" He smiled and said, "Yes, it is. I worked all week to finish it. Please call me Seiji, as we are friends." "So how much do I owe you?" Seiji handed him a check for a substantial amount of money and said, "Not a dime. Your weapons have been selling like hotcakes, especially the claw shot, plus here is your cut of the profits." He then led Kazuma and Naruto to the rear of the room, where the parts for the chakra car were arranged. Kazuma exclaimed, "Wow, you got every piece right, impressive," in surprise. "Yes, well, a lot of these pieces I've never seen before." "Just what are you making, Naruto?" "Just a little project, and believe me, it will be great, but I'm not franchising it, for it will be an original and for me to use only, but I do have 2 new designs for you I made 2 days ago," Naruto said as he recalled the incident. Rewind. Naruto was having trouble sleeping because he was thinking about too many things. However, he had 2 thoughts just as intense. Boredom had taken hold. The first was why a blade made of pure chakra couldn't be made if a jutsu like the wind blade could extend. Additionally, a sword frequently impeded ninja movements that could have saved your life in combat. So why not create a sword with a retractable blade that would be convenient to carry? He took out some graph paper and used his Necrogan to help him design the first one, which he had hoped would be a jutsu but was unsuccessful. He therefore came up with a conduit to create the blade. This was a high-quality Anbu katana handle that had his seal and chakra manipulation seals on it, allowing you to add your element to the blade in addition to having his seal on the handle. The second was exactly what it said: a broadsword that could retract and was spring-loaded to extend the blade when necessary. Flashback at the end. Before speaking, Naruto gave Seiji the schematics with pleasure. With a nod from Seiji, Naruto remarked, "My rule applies for these as well, but I do want the first versions that are made." After that, Naruto and Kazuma sealed all of the assembled parts in 3 storage scrolls and departed. Naruto asked Kazuma as they were making their way home, "How long do you think it will take you to make the car, Kazuma?" As an Anbu materialized in front of them, he said, About 3 days if you give me 15 shadow clones to help me, or so. Lord Namikaze Lady Tsunade wishes to speak to you. After giving Kazuma some cash and creating the shadow clones, Naruto said, okay, but Kazuma, here is some money and the shadow clones will follow you home. I'll be back as soon as I can. He then followed the Anbu to Tsunade's office. As any ninja would have to do if they were given a mission, he went inside and stood there respectfully. I've called you here because tomorrow after my inauguration, I'm promoting you to Jonin and Hinata and Kazuma to Chunin. So Naruto, you're quite the popular fellow in the ninja population, right now, she said, to the blonde's smile and gasp. That is great, but Kazuma isn't a ninja, so how is he going to be promoted? She received a thank you note from Naruto before he departed, saying, simple, I am granting him an honorary ninja license so he will be an official ninja of Konoha and you will also receive your pay for completing that mission from Sarutobi tomorrow. Other than what I just told you, you're dismissed. He immediately ran home and informed Kazuma and Anko Kakashi Hinata, who were diligently working with the clones on the car. That's great Naruto, congratulations, and you too Hinata, replied Kakashi. Anko said, yeah, my little bro and soon-to-be sister-in-law will be among the elite ninjas in Konoha. Hell, even the ex-furball is going to be a ninja. Kazuma, who was tinkering with the car's motor, laughed and glared at Anko. Yes, that is great news Naru, I'm finally Chunin, which means I've beat both my sister and Neji for once? Hinata giggled. Yeah, I've wanted to be a ninja a few years now, but I don't have any chakra, so I didn't think I could even if I wanted to, and I was out of the seal. Kazuma laughed. The following day, when they were presented to their new Hokage, all of the Konoha ninja were in front of the Hokage tower. It was Tsunade's turn to speak after an hour or so. As Naruto, Hinata and Kazuma entered the crowd's line of sight, she exclaimed, thank you for this honorable position as Hokage, and I promise that I'll protect the village with everything I have. However, as my first act as Hokage, I would like to reward 3 individuals for both retrieving and protecting me from Orochimaru's clutches. While the majority of the civilian population was unhappy with this, the ninja community was ecstatic about his promotion. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, you are here promoted to Jonin for outstanding courage, mastery and creation of advanced jutsu, and finally risking your life for your fellows in arms, she said. As all but the Hyugas applauded, Tsunade declared, next is Hinata Hyuga. You are hereby promoted to Chunin for exceptional skill in the field of medicine, risking your life for a comrade in arms. And finally you shall be my apprentice from now on. Next is a man who isn't a ninja but has shown that even if he doesn't have chakra you can still be powerful. Kazuma, you are appointed a ninja license and the rank of Chunin for extreme knowledge of taijutsu, risking your life for a comrade and finally protecting the name of Konoha's honor, she said as the crowd applauded him, making him smile. Team Guy offered to take the 3 of them out to celebrate as the ceremony came to a close when Hinata and Naruto said yes. Kazuma refused, saying he couldn't eat or drink, so Naruto sent him home with 20 shadow clones. Because of all the sugar and music from the previous evening, Naruto and Hinata woke up the following day with a headache. Naruto saw something unexpected while he was outside. The completed car was larger than the one he had imagined Kazuma had constructed. It had 4 seats instead of 2. Kazuma wiped some grease off his hands and said, well Naruto, what do you think? I worked all night with your clones and finished it early. It's amazing, but it's bigger than the other one. Why? Kazuma sits in the passenger seat and says, I added a few extras to it, like extra seats and some you'll see later. So now that it's done, let's take it for a test drive. Naruto nods, climbs in, loads chakra into the steering wheel, and stares at it before they head downtown. Naruto couldn't hear it move while they were driving, but then he noticed a sound barrier seal engraved on the car's hood. As they continued into the town, Naruto saw Lee pouting on a bridge. He halted the vehicle beside Lee and inquired, Lee, your surgery is tomorrow, isn't it? Yes, but Lady Tsunade said there is a chance I won't make it. Your arm and leg can't be that badly damaged, can they? Before Naruto could glance at Lee's arm and leg, he saw a suppression seal radiating on his chest. No gay jokes, people, Naruto said, activating his necrogun. As Lee followed his instructions, he exclaimed, Lee, get in the car, we have to take you to Tsunade. You have some sort of seal on your body. When they arrived at the medical center, where Tsunade is now personally in charge, they discovered her in an empty room. Tsunade inquired, what can I do for you boys? She performed a diagnostic on Lee and discovered the same thing, shocking Tsunade. I found a suppression seal on Lee's chest and it seems to be blocking why he isn't able to use chakra. I was shocked. Lee, if this works you might be able to use chakra and you might have a better chance at surviving your surgery. Do you wish me to break it? Lee smiled. The seal broke when she pushed her chakra into it, but Lee's body started to transform as light engulfed it. Lee was gone, replaced by a green-haired boy who appeared to be 16. Kazuma and Naruto both knew who it was, and they both blurted out a name, Ryuho. Now that Lee was gone, a man with icy blue eyes and green hair replaced him. Naruto also noticed that his leg and arm had healed. He got up slowly from the table and turned to face Kazuma before clutching his head in agony. Kazuma gripped Lee's shoulders and said, Ryuho, it is you. What the hell happened to you? In a worried tone. His hand gripped his head and he said, Ryuho, that sounds familiar. But one name keeps coming to mind. Zetsue, he said, as half the room began to disperse in a rainbow mist, forming the shape of a man. The man's arms were bonded together, and two ribbon-like tentacles emerged from its back. Eventually, half of the creature's face was covered by a mask-like armor, and it approached Lee, placing one of its ribbons that resembled blades on his shoulder before vanishing in the same rainbow mist that had created it. Could someone please explain the recent events? Tsunade inquired in a tone that was almost shouting. Naruto said in a happy yet dejected tone, no clue, but I guessing that when Mujo kidnapped Ryuho he placed the seal on him and dumped him. Kazuma had his old friend, but he couldn't recall anything. Lee didn't exist at all. Ryuho did, which explains why he was unable to use chakra. I can't either. Kazuma claimed that after he was done, Ryu's former Rock Lee side returned, and he assumed the fetal position with a lifeless expression on his face. I have no recollection of who I was, so my entire life has been a lie in which I have lived as someone else. What good is life? Ryuho said, sobbing. Hey, even though you might not know who you are anymore, you have friends like Naruto and me who will support you no matter who you are or who you believe you are. Ryuho smiled at Kazuma's statement, and Tsunade entered the room carrying a file at that very moment. This file, La Ryuho, states that you were discovered outside the village when you were a baby, adopted until you were 7 years old, and then your parents passed away while on a mission, leaving you to live alone once more. Is that correct? Tsunade inquired. Yes, but in order to gain admission to the academy, I had to sell the house 3 years ago. I currently reside in an apartment 1 block from the academy. Ryuho said, but Naruto responded, no, you're not. Ryuho, do you accept my invitation to move in with my family at the Uzumaki, Namikaze estate as of right now? Although I would like to, I am not wealthy and, as Naruto spoke, he was interrupted. Money is not an issue. I have so much of it from my weapon designs and my family inheritance, so it's covered. You don't have to pay me, just live with us so you have it easier. Then I agree, friend. Ryuho grinned and said, Ryuho, I'm having you continue using the alias Rock Lee for missionary purposes now that your true identity has been exposed. Apart from that, in a room that needs to be fixed, you are in good health, so you can go, Tsunade said. She pushed the 3 of them out the door. Naruto handed Kazuma some cash and moved down the hallway, saying, Ryuho, that leotard looks a little too small for you, so why don't you and Kazuma go get you some new clothes? That's my treat, and Kazuma will help you get packed until I get to you guys later. Where are you going, Naruto? Kazuma inquired. I'm checking on Sasuke because he got beat up pretty badly on his visit. Ryuho and Kazuma were on their way to the reception desk when he said this. Can I assist you? A woman said yes, I am trying to find the room of Sasuke Uchiha. You see, down the hall, it's room 211. She gestured toward the room, and when Naruto entered, he saw Sakura attempting to feed Sasuke an apple while he was ignoring her. Hey everyone, how was your time away from me? Sakura and Sasuke gazed at Naruto as he asked. Sasuke has been sleeping for a week and a half and won't eat. Naruto, you're a jonin. Talk some sense into him. As Sasuke slapped a plate off his lap, causing it to shatter and fall to the ground, Sakura uttered those words. Leaping from the bed, he approached Naruto and said, loser, fight me? Sasuke threw a sucker punch at Naruto as he was about to leave, but Naruto caught it and said, Sasuke, stop this. I cannot fight you because of regulations, otherwise I'd throw down with you in a heartbeat, but I can't, so I'll be on my way. Why do we have to fight? I'll get in trouble if I engage a Konoha genin in an unauthorized match. On top of that, you are not on my squad, so the answer is no, Naruto said, making his way to the door. When Naruto arrived at Ryu's house to assist him with packing after leaving the hospital, he discovered that Ryuho had dropped the leotard and was wearing a black skin-tight sleeveless shirt and Anbu-grade pants, surrounded by boxes. Ryuho likes the new appearance, but is this it? No, Kazuma is pushing my furniture to the living room. Every room in my estate is furnished, so leave the furniture you don't need. After saying this and removing 3 storage scrolls, Naruto sealed everything and escorted them out the door. You also live with Naruto, Kazuma? Not knowing their condition, Ryuho inquired. Kazuma nodded and said, technically yes, but Naruto and I have a condition that we cannot explain out in the open. She then let the topic go for the time being. Anko welcomed them when they got there, saying, "Hey bro, who's your friend?" Naruto shocked Anko by saying, "Believe it or not, this is Lee or was Lee. Yes, his real name is Ryuhou but was changed to Rock Lee after we believe Orochimaru aka Mujo dumped him after he conducted experiments on him after he kidnapped him from my world, plus he has no memory of his old life," Kazuma said as Ryuhou gasped. "Well, that's a hard story to swallow, little bro, and by the looks of it you have not told Ryuhou there the whole story." The rest of that day was spent teaching Ryuhou how to use his altar, and he made great progress. Plus in a spar, Ryuhou and his altar Zetsue made one hell of a team, and both of them were speed demons to boot. Naruto mentally slapped himself for the mistake, but at least they were in a safe place to reveal his and Kazuma's secret, which he and Kazuma did. However, just as their day was beginning to improve, a disturbance ruined it. Hiyashi Hyuga and 5 branch members approached Naruto and Hinata as they were enjoying a romantic dinner picnic in the garden. "Uzumaki, please leave my property while I retrieve her. Please let me kill you, Tone," Hiyashi said. "Hinata is not your property for one, and you are not in the position to be making demands, you bastard. She has a gift that has long been believed to have vanished from our clan, and I'm going to return it to them so that we can become the most respected clan in the village. Listen up, brat." As he finished speaking, Neji materialized in front of Hiyashi, prepared to engage in combat in his gentle fist position. "Lord Hiyashi, you need to stop this. She is now protected by 3 laws, and you could be arrested for treason in an attempt to save Hinata." Neji uttered these words, but Hiyashi used the tiger sign to activate the seal on his forehead, rendering him immobile, and proceeded to march towards Hinata. Naruto leapt in front of Neji, his razor maelstrom drawn and ready for a scrap, and Hinata rushed to Neji's aid. "Every week," he said, "I'm sorry, Hinata, I tried to stop him." "No, don't be sorry, I am grateful you defended me. He's right. First, Hinata is my fiancé, which is protected by the Clan Resurrection Act. Secondly, you disowned her, so you can't touch her or claim she's your daughter. Lastly, she's Lady Hokage's apprentice, so touching her will result in treason charges. I'll give you until 3 to leave my property," Naruto said, starting the count as they kept moving forward. 2. They kept coming, so Naruto stretched his sword arm high above his head. Finally, 3. Naruto slashed high sword down with a yell of Uzumaki art. Hellfire River. Just then, Hiyashi and his men were hit by a torrent of black flame. Sadly for Naruto, Hiyashi blocked the entire attack with his rotation. He was about to kill Naruto when 3 Anbu Black Op guards stopped him by putting their swords to his throat. "Lord Hyuga, you are currently being held under arrest for breaking 4 laws, in the same way that the wolf and cat masks bound his arms to his back and took his guards to jail." The bird mask Anbu uttered those words. The rest of the night passed without incident until precisely 2 in the morning, when Naruto was awakened by an Anbu who had summoned Tsunade, and he arrived by car less than 10 minutes later to find Tsunade furious. "I've called you, Naruto, because Sasuke defected to Orochimaru half an hour ago. You have 5 minutes to gather a team and bring Sasuke Uchiha back." Naruto was shocked by what she said. "All right, I'd like to have Kazuma, Rock Lee, Kiba Inuzuka, Shikamaru Nara, Neji Hyuga, and Shoji Akamichi. All right, since this is an S-rank mission, make sure you reach the north gates before you depart in 5 minutes." As he hurried to his car and called Kazuma, she said dismissively. "Are you aware of the mission?" he inquired, and Kazuma nodded. They were the first to reach the gate, and in less than 2 minutes, everyone had done so. "Listen up. Sasuke Uchiha has left Konoha while being escorted by 4 of Orochimaru's ninjas, according to the surveillance scouts. So, here's the plan. Squad 1 will consist of Kazuma and me. Lee Shikamaru, the leader of Team 2, will lead the chase as we circle around in this car for an ambush. Everyone is to stay in touch via radio, so get ready. We're leaving in a minute." They all nodded as Naruto spoke, but Neji was perplexed when she saw Lee. "Is that you, Lee?" he inquired. Ryuhou said as he got into the car. "Yes, Neji, but you may only call me Lee on missions because my real name is Ryuhou. I'll see you on the battlefield." Naruto heard it and turned to face Sakura, who was sobbing uncontrollably. "Naruto, your best friend Sasuke, could you please just bring him back to me?" "Don't worry, I'll try again until he returns to you, which is a once-in-a-lifetime promotion," he said, giving her his well-known smile. "How should I approach this, Naruto, then?" Shikamaru inquired. "Do whatever you want to do. If you can split their forces, we'll try to bring Sasuke back." As Ryuhou and Naruto Kazuma in the car drove in silence in a parallel path, Naruto said, gesturing for Team 2 to leave. Using his Necrogan, Naruto saw that Orochimaru's ninjas had a strong lead, but that they were now carrying a coffin with Sasuke nowhere to be seen. Naruto looked inside the coffin and saw that Sasuke was indeed inside, but that he was undergoing a strange metamorphosis. Is lazy genius the cause of darkness? This copy is from Lazy Genius. Sasuke is in a coffin with the enemy. Get it at all costs. Take a copy of that. Cutting the transmit ion, Shikamaru said. The sound ninjas had paused to rest, so Naruto, Kazuma, and Ryuhou started their high-speed drive to get ahead of the enemy and then ambush them if necessary. After about 30 minutes, they had caught up, but in order to avoid detection, Naruto concealed his chakra as Jiraiya had taught him. They then started to plan their strategy, but they all decided to let Team 2 attack first, then the assault, and then they would attack when they were weak. After hearing about their unusual power, Naruto began to relax after learning that they had already engaged in combat with another group of Konoha nin and were worn out. A white-haired man grabbed the coffin and fled before Naruto, Kazuma, and Ryuhou could do their snatch and grab, but not even 10 minutes later, Team 2 had sent the sound nins into a frenzy with one of Shikamaru's well-thought-out plans, and they divided the so-called Sound 4 from one another, each of them fighting a member of Team 2. The man simply stopped, put down the coffin, and turned to face the three of them. If you fools do not wish to die, leave now, said the man as Naruto, Ryuhou, and Kazuma followed him into a large clearing. His tone was almost emotionless as he spoke. Give Sasuke to us, and we'll— the man laughed as Naruto said that. And why would I assign pitiful weaklings like you three to be my master's next vassal? The man said, nearly giggling. This is why. As they prepared for round 2, the coffin exploded, revealing Sasuke's slowly changing body returning to normal. The three of them yelled in unison as they attacked the man, but as they did, something that appeared to be bones stretched out of his body, blocking their attacks. Sasuke, stop being so stupid and join us again. Naruto called out to Sasuke, but Sasuke just started laughing like a madman before taking off. Sasuke. The man they were fighting ran at Naruto with a bone sword in hand, poised to deliver a fatal blow, but Ryuhou stopped him with a kick to the face as he was attempting to pursue him. We'll take care of things here, Naruto. Ryuhou gestured for him to go. Yes, but let me use your altar by activating yours. Kazuma uttered those words as Naruto ran after Sasuke. I would like to know your names before we get serious, but that was a good kick, the man inquired. The cell bullet, Kazuma said with pride. What's yours, Ryuhou? Ryuhou inquired. Kimaro Kagaya, get ready now. I hate to kill an unprepared opponent. Coming forward, he said. All right, Ryuhou, let's show him what we have for altar users, as his arm split apart and was reassembled by gold rings. Kazuma uttered those words. His arm was clad in orange and red gold armor, and 3 fins that resembled blades emerged on his back. My friend, I agree with you. Let's show him that we're not taking it easy. Zetsue emerged in front of Ryuhou, extending its ribbons to prevent Kimaro's bone sword from striking Ryuhou. Ryuhou uttered those words. What is the odd-looking object that you have seen? Kimaro asked, leaping back to avoid Zetsue's ribbon slash and Kazuma's punch. You should give up because you can't win. These are our altar of power that he has from our will. In addition to responding to his query, Kazuma cautioned him that he was now in danger. Even if it means losing my life, Lord Orochimaru must never get his new body, he declared. I live to serve Lord Orochimaru and I will kill you in his name. As bones started to protrude from his left arm and back, the latter of which became a whip and the former a drill-like weapon, he yelled, focusing the drill on Kazuma and slashing Ryuhou with the whip. All right, nothing shocking first bullet, if that's how you want it. While Zetsue used his ribbons to cut the whip to shreds, Kazuma yelled as the first fin on his back broke apart, creating an energy gale that propelled him forward and broke the bone drill to pieces with his fist out in front of him. You can't beat me like this. Kimaro screamed as the mark on his chest began to glow and spread throughout his body, turning him into a beast. His skin turned purple, and big spikes of bone emerged from his back. A tail then appeared from his— not going there, and he once more formed the drill and whip before charging at them. Before he began to fall and scream, Kazuma punched the ground, sending himself skyward, annihilating second bullet. Kimaro saw an opening and punched Kazuma, sending him flying back as the second fin broke apart, propelling him down and making contact with the drill. However, this time, his altar began to crack. After witnessing Kazuma being struck, Ryuhou removed his leg weights and attacked Kimaro directly next to Zetsue, using their incredible speed to wrap Kimaro in his ribbons while he performed a high-speed leaf hurricane, which failed to land the kick in Kimaro's face. As his drill began to spin, cutting Zetsue's steel like ribbons as if they were nothing, Kimaro was grinning maniacally. Then, with a swing of his arm, he sent the whip wrapping up Ryuhou and lunging his drill through Zetsue, destroying him, and sending Ryuhou flying into a tree. Kimaro began to laugh. Where did all of your previous power go? You seem like nothing more than weaklings now. Kazuma, who was a very passive man but never called weak, roared in anger at what he said. The battle then changed course, with Kazuma's arm dissolving and reforming, but this time it was larger, and in the center of the fist was like a tiny energy-consuming black hole. A blade-like propeller appeared on his back, spinning and lifting him off the ground. Okay, so long as Naruto has his altar active, Kazuma can use the first 2 stages of his altar. Naruto must be in stage 3 for Kazuma to use his. It's not overyet. Kazuma yelled, flying at Kimaro, who extended his drill hoping to block the attack, but unimpacted. Kazuma's fist released a powerful blast of energy as he yelled, "Shell bullet," which, as if it were nothing, exploded through Kimaro's bone drill, and then the remainder of the blast struck Kimaro in the head, sending him flying back and leaving a crater when he hit the ground. Kazuma then fell to the ground. Just as Ryuhou sighed, Kimaro emerged from a bone tree with a bone sword, attempting to stab Kazuma and Ryuhou while yelling. A moment later, large tree-like bones started to erupt from the ground, nearly killing them both if it weren't for a bed of sand that protected and levitated them. He was unable to finish because his illness had finally taken its toll on him. I will make you paw. He had led Sasuke to the Valley of End, where he was standing on the statue of Madara's head, and Naruto was on the head of the first Hokage. Come on, Sasuke, you have no idea what Orochimaru has in store for you. You must return. Naturally, he will grant me authority so that I can murder my brother and exact my retribution on you. You pitiful loser. As he began to laugh once more, Sasuke said, "Such power I want more, but I might lose my mind if I use it too long." Naruto leapt over and tackled Sasuke, then punched him with his left fist. Sasuke then grabbed Naruto's shirt and started lifting him into the air. "Sasuke, you're not yourself. Let your friends assist you, I'll bring you back." Before taking a punch to the gut that broke his ribs, Naruto uttered those words. "No, you won't. I've broken off those connections, and they won't be restored until Itachi passes away." "Hey, old man, Hokage left me a secret when he passed away. Madara killed everyone, not Itachi. Your own father was plotting a coup so he could use me as a weapon." Before being flung at the statue of the first Hokage, which caused a crater in it, Naruto uttered those words. "You have never had a family, so you have no idea what it's like to have that kind of bond and have them taken away from you. I won't listen to your lies. You're mistaken, Sasuke. I understand what it's like to have family and to lose them. When I learned that my mother had died giving birth to me, it hurt more than you can imagine," Naruto remarked as he emerged from the crater. "In addition to killing her, my father passed away, leaving my adopted older brother and sister and I orphans. This sealed Kazuma inside of me. However, I considered you to be my brother before I learned that I still had family, and you're attempting to sabotage that in retaliation." With tears in his eyes, Naruto declared, "Even if I have to break every bone in your body, I will bring you back." He hellfired on Sasuke with his blackout first bullet. However, he failed because Sasuke leapt back and flashed his fireball jutsu, launching a huge fireball at Naruto. Naruto, however, pulled out his razor maelstrom and swung it while shouting, "Namikaze art! Hurricane Gale Dragon!" As though it hadn't been there, a huge wind-shaped dragon swam through the fireball and struck Sasuke, sending him plummeting into the water below. Because Naruto's sword was irreplaceable and had Gobi's power over all elemental affinities, he was upset when he was forced out of the water with a kunai. Forcing his razor maelstrom out of his hand and into the water, Naruto used his chakra to stick to the top of the water, but just as he was about to check on Sasuke, he burst out of it. Ryuhou and Kazuma had been burying Kimaro's lifeless body in a crater that Kazuma had previously created when a figure with red hair, a tattoo on his forehead, and a gourd emerged from the wood. The crater was filled with living sand. "Is that you, Gaara?" Kazuma and Ryuhou asked simultaneously. "Am I acquainted with either of you?" Gaara questioned both of them. "My name is Kazuma, but you may recognize me by the moniker this world gave me. Kyuubi. I live inside the seal on Naruto's stomach, so you don't know me." Gaara gave Kazuma a half-surprised, half-indifferent look. "But you do know Ryuhou there, or should I say Lee?" Kazuma said. Gaara's eyes widened upon learning that Ryuhou was Lee. He said, "Yes, until they discovered a suppression seal on me, I was Lee, but that's enough about me. What brought you here, Gaara?" "I still can't recall who I was," Ryuhou inquired. "Our village owes your village a department of gratitude, and I owe Naruto my life for opening my eyes. he stated in a tone devoid of emotion. Back with Naruto now in a fit of rage, he fired his lad 2 bullets at Sasuke, missing both times, but that's when things got bad. When he was thrown to the bottom of the river, he activated stage 2 of his altar, and his arm vanished and reformed to its full glory. I won't explain because it's a pain in the ass. As the dust cleared, he charged at full speed, using a shadow shock bullet on Sasuke, causing him to ram into the cavern wall before Naruto could react. He said Chidori through his left lung, collapsing and hearing Sasuke laugh before everything turned black. "Are you going to fight or are you just going to lay there?" a voice said. "I had a Chidori pushed through my chest, in case you didn't notice." Naruto uttered those words with a sardonic tone. "They also say that people are weak, so get up and finish your battle," the voice said. "Hold on, who are you?" The figures emerged from the shadows to reveal a black dragon, but it was the 10 flailing tails and 4 additional heads on the dragon that really got Naruto. The room lighted up to reveal a flaming hot brimstone cave with 2 enormous red eyes that could have scared Kami himself staring at him. "What's wrong, boy? Do you feel afraid of me?" the dragon inquired. After gathering himself, Naruto uttered the words, "Hell no, and you still haven't responded to my question. Who are you?" "You're brave, boy. I go by several names, including the Destroyer and the Span of Hell above all, though, my real name is Nazaryu, the King of Demons." As you may know, Naruto's uncle was named after the dragon, which is another plot twist. The dragon gloated. No comments. Yes, I added myself to the story as 2 characters. "Well, to start, why do you and my uncle share the same name? For heaven's sake, I'm staring at the King of Demons at 2 in the morning." The 5-headed dragon said, "No, you're not dead, but your uncle was named after me because his Necrogan was activated at birth." "What are your thoughts on the Necrogan?" Naruto questioned icily. "I should be aware of it since I was the one who created it and I worked with my subordinates to contribute to the creation of the power known as Altar alone." "Lord Nazaryu, why have you brought me here?" "Aha, you respect me a lot because you recently passed my test. I called you to save your life and make you an offer." "What's the matter?" "As retribution for permitting the existence of that miserable man Mujo, I will grant you the ultimate form of your altar and extraordinary healing abilities in exchange. I will be able to use your altar as my eyes to your world since I will be unable to walk there for the rest of eternity. Do you agree?" "I'll take the course. Do you even need to ask?" The dragon laughed when Naruto said that. "The new Kyuubi Kazuma will soon regain his freedom and body, but you remind me so much of Kyuubi when he was still alive. Man, that's all I had to say now. Return to your world and complete that battle." Naruto's world turned black as the dragon roared. In the real world, just seconds later, Sasuke saw Naruto's lifeless body enveloped in a black aura and slowly rise upward into a standing position as his wound from the Chidori healed instantly. However, that wasn't the strangest thing that happened. Parts of the cavern walls vanished into a black mist and flew to Naruto, changing his left arm into the same one as his right. Then, the unexpected happened. Naruto's razor maelstrom shot out of the water and into the cloud of black mist that surrounded him, making him invisible. The mist dispersed after a minute or so, and Naruto was fully clad in armor, with his head resembling a helmet inside a dragon's mouth. The only thing visible in the helmet was Naruto's Necrogan flaring, his arms being the same old darkness falls, but his upper torso covered in a thick, animalistic mechanical armor, and a scaly, black cloth covering him from the stomach to his knees. His razor maelstrom served as his tail on his back, but each link was separated into its full stretched length, and the armor from the knees down looked heavy, like a dragon's hind legs. As his new altar sent surges of power through his body, Naruto looked at himself with approval and said, "This power is amazing. I like it. Now you're going down, Sasuke," he half yelled. "Hey kid, don't get ahead of yourself. You can only use it for 10 minutes this time before it starts to harm your body. You need time to adjust and realize its full potential." "Your Lord Nazaryu?" "No, it's your long-lost grandmother. Keep fighting and succeed." Sasuke retaliated violently when Naruto changed his outfit, saying, "You can't still defeat me, loser, just because you changed your costume." Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu. Sending a massive fireball at Naruto. Sasuke yelled, flashing a number of hand signals while yelling in his mind. With a sly smile, Naruto leapt to his feet and slashed his tail in the direction of the fireball while shouting, "Uzumaki, Namikaze art." Necro Maelstrom. By this point, Naruto's left side had gone numb. The attack sliced straight through the fireball and sent Sasuke into the cavern wall as his tail turned into a vortex of wind blades, metal, and hellfire. "You and I both possess a unique power, but it appears that yours has taken a greater toll than mine has." After emerging from the dust, Sasuke said. Even in this form I have a time limit, so let's let the final attack decide the battle. What do you say, loser? My skin was darker now, and he had a shuriken-shaped mark in the middle of his face. His hair had grown and turned purple finally. 2 arms with webbed hands sprouted from his back, giving the appearance of wings. Bastard, I couldn't agree with you more. As 2 dragon wings emerged from his back and a Risan Hell bullet developed in his hand, Naruto responded. While memories of the past ran through their minds, making them respect each other more, the energy faded, leaving only Sasuke standing holding his arm as the 2 ninjas' tools flew at each other with their respective jutsu aimed at each other. It was a battle of supremacy until both jutsu backlashed, creating a large sphere of energy that distorted the waterfall. Before he hobbled away, his headband fell off next to Naruto's sword, but he took one last look at his friend, whose armor was now gone, and vowed to get power his way rather than his brother's. 5 minutes or so later, Kakashi found Naruto unconscious. He was grateful that his younger brother was still alive and picked him up along with his weapons and Sasuke's headband before returning to Konoha. When Naruto woke up, he was in Kazuma's bed, and when he went outside, he saw that Kazuma had just growled and smashed a rock against an old street sign. What has caused you to become enraged, Kazuma? I was unable to assist you, and you were hurt. I was unable to assist my friend in his deeply painful situation. Kazuma uttered those words, tears streaming down his cheeks. You couldn't do anything about my fight anyhow. After giving Kazuma a pat on the back, Naruto recalled what the Demon Lord had told him. Tell the new Kyuubi that he will soon be free and have his body back. Naruto assumed that he was referring to Kazuma 1. Kazuma said, Naruto, are you okay? It's not your style to think unless you have an idea, or we just had a big conversation. Naruto abruptly stopped thinking and gave Kazuma a serious look. Kazuma, I should have died when I was hit by Sasuke's Chidori during my battle, but instead I was called to someone. The last thing he told me was to tell the new Kyuubi that he will soon be free and get his body back, Naruto said, describing what had transpired with the Demon Lord. It's odd, I suppose, that I was Kyuubi for a time, but I'm no longer a fox. Yes, but I wonder what he'll do if he does mean you. Before Naruto could give it much thought, a slight tremor occurred, and the sky briefly darkened. However, as it was coming to an end, a figure emerged from the shadows, dressed in jet black, wearing a black leather trench coat that opened to reveal his ripped, bare body, and black pants of Anbu quality. He appeared to be in his late 20s. Naruto sensed that the man's chakra was not human, and he assumed a fighting stance with Kazuma, but the man simply laughed. What's wrong, boy? You don't recognize me even though we made a deal. The man's voice was demonic and sounded like someone Naruto had met. As a sign of respect, Naruto dropped to one knee and said, Pardon me, Lord Nazaryu, I didn't realize it was you. Stand, boy. Even though you are currently on par with me and all demons have human bodies, you still need to address me formally. Other than that, you are free to say or do anything you want, Nazaryu said as he approached Kazuma and Naruto. Lord Nazaryu, what did you mean when you mentioned releasing the new Kyuubi? Curious, Naruto asked. Naruto looked at Kazuma and then grinned broadly. What I said is what I meant. As for Kyuubi, he is standing right next to you. Lord Nazaryu, how do we do that? Kazuma inquired in an appreciative but perplexed manner. Simply put, it will take me 3 hours to charge enough chakra to break and release you through the seal, after which I will join the boy's alter ego. Naruto started to fade after Nazaryu's statement, but when he woke up, he saw Hinata smiling and crying with happiness as she smashed her face against his and gave him their most passionate kiss to date. I'm so happy you're okay, Naruto. If you were dead, I wouldn't know what to do. Sobbing into her shoulder, she said. I told you that I'm not dying and that I still need to marry you, so don't cry, angel. Despite the fact that Tsunade and Shizune had just entered the room, he kissed her. Well, I enjoy the odd romance book, but this is going too far, don't you think so, Shizune? When Tsunade said that, her assistant giggled. Yes, I am allowed to kiss my fiancé, am I not? Naruto inquired. Yes, but even though you still failed your first mission as Jonin, it's not a complete loss because the Uchiha's headband was recovered. However, I need your verbal status regarding this mission's events right now, she said, seeking clarification. Tsunade was shocked to learn that Naruto had met the King of Demons and struck a deal with him, getting more for what was requested, and that Naruto had told her everything, even about Nazaryu. Naruto, I'm keeping you in the hospital until Kazuma is released, as you stated, but I do have my doubts about this. That was one hell of a battle. What has transpired with my team, then? Naruto inquired. Although they all have minor wounds, they are all doing well. Oh, aside from you, Hinata. He is not permitted to have any guests. Tsunade remarked as she started to leave the room. She said, abandoning them. After holding each other close for 2 hours and 55 minutes, the Hyuga Council and 3 other members of the main branch entered. Lord Uzumaki, we would appreciate it if you would distance yourself from Miss Hinata. She has been reinstituted as the Hyuga clan's heir and is also getting married, calmly, one of the elders said. I hate to break the news to you, but Hinata is my fiancé, and I will not let her go. As he infuriated one of the elder Hyuga, Naruto said icily. Hey boy, if you don't give her to us, we'll take her by force because we need her power to be reborn into our clan. After yelling, the Hyuga elder stormed out of the room, leaving Naruto and the 3 main branch Hyuga members alone. Will you actually pay attention to them? As he grabbed his razor maelstrom, Naruto asked the men. If we don't get the young miss, we have no other option but to be publicly humiliated and then put to death. The middle Hyuga answered before attempting to strike Naruto's heart with a chakra-filled blow. The other 2 Hyugas were appalled as their cousin was tragically sent through the wall by an unidentified figure, but stopped as Naruto was engulfed in light and a figure flew out of him punching said Hyuga. Kazuma stood in all his human splendor as the light faded. Yes, I have my body back. Kazuma shouted with delight. Tsunade rushed through the door as they were getting ready to battle the other 2 Hyugas. What the hell happened here? She said, her face displaying anger. These Hyugas attacked us after the Hyuga Council ordered them to. Tsunade moaned as Naruto spoke. Follow me, you 3, as we are expected at the Konoha Council meeting. Naruto, Kazuma and Hinata followed her to the Hokage Tower, but Tsunade stopped them before they could enter the meeting hall. I initially came to pick you up, Naruto, because the council wanted you to take the seats of Uzumaki and Namikaze on the council. However, at this time, they want to try Kazuma and Ryuhou to see if they should be placed under the Clan Resurrection Act and formed into a clan, she said, startling Kazuma and Naruto with the potential consequences. All of the clan heads were seated in a row in front of a small set of chairs when Naruto entered the room. I'm so happy you were able to attend, Lord Namikaze, as Hiashi's replacement, one of the Hyuga elders he had previously met said. I'm really happy to be here, Naruto remarked as he sat down beside Sume Inuzuka. Inoichi Yamanaka got up and gestured for their guests to come in. Lee and Kazuma came in. You have been called here, Kazuma and Ryuhou, also known as Kyuubi and Rock Lee, because you possess a rare Kekkei Genkai from another world. Our task is to decide whether or not you should form a clan, he said, drawing a scowl from Naruto, who had questioned how they were able to identify Kazuma. I know them both, and they would want this, so if I may vote, they should be established as a clan. As Ryuhou gave a thumbs up in appreciation and Kazuma smiled, Naruto said. I oppose this. Konoha doesn't need any more clans. The other 5 clan leaders grinned malevolently as the Hyuga elder remarked. 2 more no's could be heard at Hamura and Kaharu. Yes, I vote. A chorus of the other leaders yelling at the Hyuga elder went through the room. All right, Kazuma Ryuhou, you have been given the clan name Aratameru and the rank of Jonin. You have to have at least 2 wives within 3 years, or else wives will be assigned to you. Kaharu dismissed the boys with a disapproving tone. Naruto got up to speak to the other council members, saying, I need to take care of 2 things, fellow council members. Lord Namikaze, you have the floor, said Choza Akamichi, grinning as he turned to face Naruto. Thank you, Lord Akamichi, just call me Choza. All right, so the Hyuga clan disowned my fiancée after she nearly died from a heart attack, and since yesterday, they have attempted to kill me twice. During our search for Lord Hokage, we discovered that she had a long-lost Kekkei Genkai known as the Tears of Rebirth. The Hyuga family somehow discovered this and is attempting to turn her into a breeding factory, he said, gaining the only 5 council members who cared attention. Their distaste for the Hyuga clan grew as a result of Naruto's remarks about the 5 clan leaders. Is this Lord Hyuga for real? What? Sume Inuzuka inquired. Since Kekkei Genkai is sacred and can cure any illness or wound, it is imperative that it remain in the clan's lineage. As Kaharu and Hamura concurred, the Hyuga elder spoke. It doesn't matter anymore. Lord Hyuga, your clan rejected her, and someone else adopted her and accepted her proposal, protecting her under the Clan Resurrection Act. Enraged, Shinoru Aburame said to the Hyuga. You are not allowed to tell me that she is a Hyuga and that she will marry another Hyuga because that is customary and that's how things will remain. Hyuga, the elder, yelled. I'm going to say this once. If you even touch the girl, you will be put to death, and the Hyuga clan will lose its influence in this council because the Inuzuka clan currently protects her. As others joined in, Sume said. And the clan Yamanaka, Inoichi remarked proudly. And the clan of Nara, troublesome, muttered Shikaku. And the clan of Akamichi, to protect the young girl, Choza said. And the clan of Aburame, Shinoru said, heard only from his clan, in his typical emotionless tone. The other clan leaders laughed heartily as they finally retaliated against the jackasses who were the Hyugas, and then the elder Hyuga and Hamura stormed out of the room. You still have the floor, Lord Namikaze. Kaharu spoke in a very angry tone after witnessing her friend's loss of their opportunity to achieve greatness. Yes, the Uchiha clan is the second problem. I know Sasuke is gone, but after Lord Sarutobi died, he gave me a secret mission and told me the truth about the Uchiha massacre that occurred 5 years ago, Naruto said, startling all of the clan leaders. Please explain what you mean by the truth, Lord Namikaze Choza, like the other members of the council, asked in confusion. Yes, Itachi Uchiha worked as a double agent for the Uchiha clan in Sarutobi 5 years ago. In order to use me as a living weapon, the Uchiha clan was preparing a coup. Sarutobi ordered the clan's assassination after Itachi told him. However, Itachi was unable to complete it, so he went to Madara Uchiha to finish it. 3 Uchiha remained after the clan was destroyed. However, Itachi has been banned from the village as a missing nin up until this point. As evidence of his words, Naruto held up a copy of the pardon. Lord Namikaze, how do you know we can trust him? Your speech seems a little unrealistic, Kaharu inquired. All I can say is that he has repeatedly prevented the group Akatsuki from apprehending me and entering the village. The clan leaders looked shocked when Naruto said that. And do you have evidence to support this assertion? Sume Inuzuka asked. I actually do. In fact, this was given to me by Itachi the day he staged his attempt to capture me, and it contains the numerous times he has saved the village and me, Naruto said, passing a scroll to Sume. As they read the scroll, all of the clan leaders nodded in agreement with Naruto's statement. Well done, Lord Namikaze. I'm going to close this council meeting now, but we do hope to meet with Itachi when he gets back, Kaharu said, letting the others exit the conference room. When Naruto got home, Kazuma tackled him and put him in a headlock. You did it, kid. I'm proud of you, he said, causing Naruto's scalp to burn like a rug. Yes, my friend, thank you very much for doing this for us. After 3 hours of shouting, yay! Or, springtime of youth, the Lee half of Ryuhou, who had finally calmed down, said. Naruto said, yes, well, now that you are free Kazuma, you can do whatever you want and you can now use your altar when you like, so you win in 2 ways. As he entered the dining room, Hinata was setting the table with dinner, grinning up at him. What was the outcome? As Hinata leapt over the table and tackled him down, giving him the most intense kiss imaginable, he said, wonderful, the Hyuga clan can no longer pursue you as you are protected by the Akamichi clan, Inuzuka clan, Yamanaka clan, and Aburame clan as of today. Crystal tears streamed down her face as she said, thank you Naruto, you saved me again. I owe you so much, but you ask for nothing in return. But you're mistaken. I do ask you to marry me, among other things, and to follow your dreams because no one can take them away from you, she said, nodding as she had previously stated. As more tears streamed down her cheeks, he spoke. I'll do promotions, she sobbed as she spoke into his shoulder. On the day that Itachi was to return to the village, the altar trio walked to the gate because they had guard duty specifically for this occasion. 2 weeks of training passed as if nothing had happened, and Ryuhou was improving at both fighting alongside and communicating with his altar, which was a significant accomplishment. It was one of those days when no one passed through the village, but that soon changed when 2 figures appeared over the horizon and slowly approached the gates. They turned out to be Itachi and his cheerful blue friend Kisame. 8 hours flew by as they turned to a game of poker to kill time. We've been waiting for you to put these on and allow us to escort you, Itachi and Kisame. In addition to giving them a pair of Enbu garments, Naruto also handed them a mask depicting a shark and a weasel. Hey kid, are you kidding me? Kisame inquired as he reached for his bandaged halberd. Conversely, Naruto and I have recommended that you become a Konoha ninja if you so choose, Kazuma remarked as Kisami's shark-like smile widened. Shizune, who didn't appear in the least bit afraid of Itachi or Kisame, welcomed the incognito missing ninjas as they entered the Hokage Tower to see Tsunade. Itachi was astounded by the young girl's beauty, and if he hadn't been wearing the mask, everyone would have known that he had found her attractive. Itachi, you have been pardoned for your crime, but you have a council hearing to determine your intention and rank you will receive, Tsunade said, allowing them to take off their masks. Good, you have arrived as Naruto said you would, but I have to say I thought you would never return. He knelt down to honor her and said, I understand Lord Hokage and thank you for trusting me to return. Itachi, that's all right, you have been asked to be a Konoha nin, Kisame. but your coup with the Mizukage has put us in a bad position because we don't know what your intentions are as a result. You will also be hearing before the council to decide your fate, she said, a little frightening Kisame. Kazuma and Naruto Ryuhou entered the council chamber and took their seats on behalf of their clans. Kazuma decided that even though he was one of the two representatives of the Aratameru clan, he would have to pretend to understand what everyone was talking about, but he couldn't. Ryuhou assured him that it was okay and that he would assist him if he truly needed it. To prevent them from seeing the council members, Itachi and Kisame were brought inside and seated in the glaring light. Itachi Uchiha, despite your pardon, we still have some questions for you, one of the voices said. First, is it accurate to say that you joined Akatsuki in order to defend Konoha? Another animalistic-sounding voice said. Yes, it is true that they wanted to demolish the village in order to apprehend Naruto Uzumaki and get rid of a rival to their schemes. He spoke without withholding any of the information that had been provided to him. Are you aware of their leader's identity or whereabouts? Another deep voice inquired. I'm sorry, but I don't. We've only encountered a holographic jutsu that he had used, and because his figure was always blackened, it was impossible to identify him. His voice was filled with obvious sorrow as he spoke. Last but not least, now that you're back in Konoha, what are your plans? Asked in a genuine voice that was unmistakably Naruto's. I want to become a shinobi once more and bring my clan back to its former splendor, but I also want to teach that power should only be used when it is absolutely necessary to safeguard loved ones and the village's safety. Itachi Uchiha, you will be told by a council member later today what your rank and status as a shinobi shall be. You are now dismissed. This made the council smile with pride because they knew what he meant was accurate. An additional voice said, letting him go. Now let's talk about you. Kisame Hoshigaki, your attempt to overthrow the Mizukage led to you being classified as a missing ninja. Tell us about your relationship with Itachi Uchiha. First, a voice full of hate asked. I owe Itachi my life and more because he saved me from certain death after I managed to escape the failed coup d'etat. Kisame spoke honestly. Now explain to us why you tried to pull a coup, the animalistic female voice inquired. The Mizukage gave the 7 swordsmen of the mist orders to help kill all the village clans, but he also told us to destroy our own so that we would be spared. We were unable to do so. We attempted to kill him but were unsuccessful, Kisame said with a dejected expression. Lastly, why should we have faith in you? A woman's voice asked. As long as I live, I will serve your Hokage to put an end to the Hunter Nin and do everything in my power to keep this village safe. He declared his allegiance to the village and the Hokage while kneeling. All right, so you've been assigned the rank of Jonin. May I ask if your clan had a Kekkei Genkei? A chilly but friendly voice inquired. I'm sure you recognize this person. Yes, my clan adopts the appearance of any animal it comes into contact with at birth, giving them the same senses as the animal, in an attempt to leave, he said. You are also subject to the Clan Resurrection Act, which states that you have 3 years to find at least 2 wives, failing which we will choose for you. Now you're fired, a woman's voice said. The council started deliberating after he left. What should Itachi's rank be? Sume was asked. He will make a great Anbu captain who has experienced the worst in life and is more knowledgeable about the external environment and enemy tactics, so I say we restore his previous rank. Naruto said, having this plan all along. Lord Namikaze, excellent idea, Choza said. Choza smiled as he said, please just call me Naruto. Lord Namikaze makes me feel older than I am. Those who agree say, aye, while those who disagree say, nay. Inoichi stated that there were 3 nais and 8 eyes in the herd. Now that it has been decided, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, you are to inform Itachi of his rank and that he is currently being watched, Kaharu said. After the meeting ended, Kisame, who was happy with his position and status, was picked up by Naruto Kazuma and Ryuhou and went in search of Itachi. He was later discovered in the graveyard in the Uchiha district, praying for forgiveness to his mother and the other non-shinobi Uchiha members. He was extremely shaken up about them. I sincerely apologize for your loss, Itachi. Naruto put his hand on Itachi's shoulder and said, but the good news is you have your old rank of Anbu captain again, but you are to be watched off duty for now on. Itachi grinned as he said this, followed by Kazuma, Ryuhou and Kisame. Hey, Naruto. If we are late for dinner again and we don't return soon, Anko will try to make us into pincushions. Recalling the first time they were late, Kazuma said. We already have guests coming, but we could use a few more. Kisame, Itachi, would you like to join us? Naruto asked, receiving a yes please from Itachi and a hell yes from Kisame. As they arrived, what appeared to be 1,000 kunai flew at them, but Kisami's Somata, I'm not sure if that's spelled correctly, blocked them all, and he saw Anko with a kunai in her mouth, Ready to send more. Kisame blushed because he had never seen anyone use a kunai so sadistically and let the person live except Zabuza. Hey, little brother, could you please explain why you returned home with 2 missing ninjas that are ranked triple S? She questioned Naruto. I invited them to dinner, and they aren't missing nin. As of today, they are Konoha's fully certified ninjas. Naruto smirked and flushed as she gazed at Kisame, whom she found to be fairly attractive. Shizune, Tsunade and Jiraiya had already taken their seats at the table when Naruto and the gang entered the dining room. Itachi sat down next to Shizune, blushing, making her blush as well, and Kisame sat down next to Anko, who was looking nervous. They explained the situation to Anko, who gave Naruto a bump on the head for not asking for her assistance but was relieved he was successful. Most of the time, Itachi either gripped his eye or blinked frantically as they spent hours getting to know the 2 new nin who had learned a lot about their saviors. Nazaryu said, "Hey kid, it looks like he's going blind. You should help him." "How can I accomplish that?" He elicited a gasp from Naruto when he said, "From what I have learned over a century, the Sharingan of watching the Uchiha's eyes were born of Kazuma's alter power given to him by the other side and when they obtained Mangekyou." Naruto exclaimed in shock and amazement, "If what you're saying is accurate, both Kazuma and Ryuho are over 100 years old." "Yes. Well, Kazuma and Ryu's power put them in a kind of hibernation until their bodies adapted to this world. But we are getting off subject." "Heal his eyes by pouring your alter power into it," Nazaryu said, cutting the mental connection. Later that evening, as instructed by Tsunade, Naruto escorted Itachi home when he inquired, "Itachi, how would you like to regain your sight?" "I would like that, but only the Kyuubi is believed to do that and he does not exist anymore," Itachi replied. "Nevertheless, he did, and if you want, I can fix them," Naruto inquired, describing Nazaryu and how he had explained to him how to cure his eyes. "I'll accept it, but you mentioned that he got in touch with you. How in the hell is he able to do that?" Itachi inquired. "Even though I have no idea what will happen during this process, I need you to lay down." Itachi was lying on a futon in his home when Naruto uttered those words. The 3-sided shuriken design in Itachi's eyes changed again, evolving into a power that only one Uchiha had cheated to obtain. However, Itachi had earned it, and now he possessed the Mange Mangekyou Sharingan. Itachi activated his Sharingan, and Naruto began pouring his alter power into Itachi's eye. Itachi ran to a mirror and was shocked to see that his Mangekyou Sharingan had changed from being shaped like a 3-pronged shuriken to resembling 3 chains that resembled tomos linked together around the pupil of the eye. The pain in his eyes had vanished, and he could see better than ever before, even seeing the chakra radiating off of people. "Itachi, what the devil happened to your eyes?" Naruto inquired. "I don't know," he said, but then, against his will, tiny pieces of the floor scattered and formed Naruto's fist. His arm suddenly rose to eye level, and a demonic red eye opened in the center of his palm. "I am able to respond to that," the eye said. "Is that you, Lord Nazaryu?" Naruto inquired, a little alarmed. "Yes, my boy, and to answer your question, the only way you could have saved the Uchiha's eyes was to activate the final stage of the Sharingan, which is called the Mange Mangekyou. That only Madara Uchiha has activated by cheating his way to it," Nazaryu replied to Itachi's question. "What would happen if I were to be so brazen, Lord Nazaryu?" Itachi inquired. "N. Get this, it means Kachyu is the same as Naruto and Maelstrom. Cool, huh? Very good question, my boy. It is only second in power next to the Kachyu Necrogan." "But that still doesn't tell us what it does, my lord," Naruto said. "Well, the Mange can teleport the person wherever they want, as so can the Kachyu. Second, it can control souls to do its bidding, and finally it can transfer your soul along with the Mange into a separate body," Nazaryu explained to the two. "But, my lord, what can the Kachyu do?" Naruto inquired. "Your uncle was the only person I gave permission to activate the Kachyu because he respected the authority and looked out for the people she cared about. One day, Naruto, I'll let you use it just like you do, but you should still understand what it does. It grants the user and spouses a long life, has the ability to teleport, see the good and evil in people, and read thoughts. It can only freeze time for escape purposes. Finally, though, it can open the gate to the opposite side without causing any harm to your body and transport you there for a few days," Nazaryu concluded. "That implies Ryuho and Kazuma have a means of getting home," Naruto exclaimed joyfully. "No, it doesn't. They will die if they return for more than a day because their bodies have adapted to this world. I will be here to help until then, but for now, I have to go to bed. We can talk later," Nazaryu warned Naruto. Nazaryu said, slipping out of Naruto's grasp. Tsunade called Naruto, Kazuma and Ryuho the following day, and when they got there, they saw Jiraiya and Itachi, who was on his first day back on active duty, with Tsunade from behind. Tsunade gestured for Itachi to hand them each a folder and said, "Good, you're here. We have heard that both Orochimaru and the Akatsuki have started moving. This is where you three come in. I am sending you three on a 3-year training, sabotage mission. Attacking Orochimaru won't be easy, so you must take where he has been and either liberate or destroy it. Any complaints?" "Yes, Grandma, Hinata and I are getting married in 2 years. How do you think we'll tie the knot without me present?" Naruto inquired. "Hey brat, we will be training with the Konoha elite for the final year before leaving the village for 2 years. Jiraiya's words caused Naruto to relax. "However, how does that protein affect Ryuhou and me? We are unable to use chakra, and our alter egos are now valuable to the village," Kazuma said. "That's true, but you three will be given aliases because you are better than any shinobi in this village at tracking Orochimaru's energy. As a result, Ryuhou will now be known as Rock Lee, Kazuma as Tachibana Aratameru, and Naruto as Necro Kachu. You will have a week to say goodbye and gather supplies. You're fired now." As everyone except Naruto departed, Tsunade uttered those words. "How did you find out about Kachu, Tsunade?" Naruto questioned icily. "Why are you so upset about it when it's just another form of your first name, Naruto?" she inquired. "It's also the name of my Necrogan's second form, but I haven't activated it yet, so for now, keep it a secret," Naruto said as he left the room. When Naruto told his family the news on his way home, they were devastated, especially Hinata, who refused to let Naruto go for the remainder of the evening. The week passed quickly and was as depressing as they had anticipated, but they chose to ignore that Naruto gave Hinata a final, passionate kiss and promised to write to her whenever he had the chance. The four of them then set out on their journey through life, which they call a joyride. A year later, 3 friends were walking back to their camp after a heated argument, when 2 girls emerged from a tent and talked down the brown-haired boy and the long green-haired teen. "Tachibana, you said you would return an hour ago. Do you want me to stop kicking your ass again?" the blonde girl inquired. "No, Yageto, I'm fine. That fight took longer than anticipated, so I'm sore," Tachibana said. "So, Lee, is this accurate?" the other black-haired girl inquired. "Yes, Tyranny, they were shinobi of the Jonin level, and this time they nearly defeated us." The blonde member of the trio laughed as Lee remarked. Both girls squealed at their strong men and tackled them down. "At least we have girlfriends, Necro." Before realizing that was a huge mistake, Tachibana said, and Necro looked down, his tears hidden. In an attempt to uplift him, Yageto said, "Necro, he didn't mean it, you know that." Putting a hand on Necro's shoulder, Lee remarked, "Yes, friend, do not let insults get you down. It's okay. Guys, we only have 9 months left before we head back to the village. I'll see her soon." Necro uttered those words. "Where is Sensei, girls?" Lee inquired. "The old pervert was gone when we returned, so we don't know where he is." Yageto snorted as he spoke. "Hey, is Kit anywhere?" Necro inquired. "Yes, he is sleeping in the tent." A small fox kit jumped on Necro's shoulder, wrapped its tail around Necro's neck, and purred as it ran out of one of the 3 tents, Tyranny remarked. "Hey, do you miss me, little guy?" As it yipped and licked his cheek, Necro inquired suddenly. A white-haired man with a smile on his face fell from a tree. "We depart from Necro Tachibana Lee, and I found Nazaryu." As he packed his bag, the man said. "Sensei, are you certain?" Necro asked. "Positive he lives in a cave 20 miles north of here, so hurry up and let's get going." After 2 hours of running at ninja speed, they arrived at a limestone cave, which was enormous and smooth as if someone had blazed through it. However, as soon as they entered the cave, they were all struck by a genjutsu, which Necro instantly released but which appeared to be reinforced. Necro channeled some chakra into his eyes, and sure enough, a man with shoulder-length hair was wearing a ninja-style black jacket, Anbu-grade pants, and a red spiral on each sleeve of the jacket. "Hey, Uzumaki is still alive." When Necro yelled, the man instantly halted the genjutsu and turned to face him. "How do you know that someone other than me lives in Uzumaki?" said the man. Necro tied a note to a kunai and threw it at his feet. The man picked up and read it. It had 5 words on it. "I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze." The man said, "And how do I know this is true?" Necro exclaimed, "This," as his once ocean blue eyes turned black, revealing a blood-red, 4-point shuriken in the center, with a red tomo at each point and a point in each direction. Joyous tears streamed down the man's face as he collapsed to his knees. Running to Necro, he threw his arms around him and gave him a tight hug. He kept sobbing while holding the boy tighter. Necro exclaimed, "Show, king not Bree, thing," as the man released his grip. The man said, "Tell me, nephew, where you have been if you survived." That is classified when we're out in the open, Uncle Nazaryu, said Necro. Well, come on in my house, it is protected by the most powerful seals there are, Nazaryu exclaimed as he escorted the 2 women and the 4 men into the spacious cottage. When they stepped inside, all external noise vanished. So nephew, what brings you to seek me out now instead of looking for me years ago? Nazaryu responded. Necro started the tale with his birth before Yagedo hit him over the head. He told him about Kazuma, who would insert his 2 cents. Then he told him about Nazaryu, the king of demons, and Nazaryu laughed heartily. He then concluded his account of his inventions. Well, Naruto, you and your friends have been through a lot, including Kazuma there, but really why do you come to me now? Well, I need help training my Nekrogan and in the family's taijutsu, and you weren't easy to find either. It took us a better part of a year to find you, said Naruto. Nazaryu waits for a resounding no. I'll train you, but it will take over 2 years to master them both, he said. Naruto bit his thumb and created a single blood clone. Well, I can cut that time in half, for I have a jutsu that can give me the experience quickly, he said. A forbidden art, impressive, but you don't have to worry either. I have placed a special jutsu on this cave that makes time move faster than the outside world. We can begin your training tomorrow, and if Kazuma and Ryuho like to join in, I'm okay with that, seeing as you 2 are just as close to family. Nazaryu announced their arrival. Ryuho and Kazuma groaned as Jiraiya said, sorry, but we still have work to do. We will be back once a month to check up on Naruto here and test his progress. Kazuma, with tears in his eyes, walked to the door and said, I hate to admit it, but the old fart is right. We still need to complete our mission or no pay when we return to the village. Following Kazuma, Ryuho said, yes, friend, we must eradicate the evils Mujo has created, or he could do something terrible. Yageto and Terani trailed closely behind. Kazuma turned around and said as Naruto walked to the cave's edge and bid them farewell for the last time. Necro, you better get stronger because I'm going to kick your ass when we get back, Kazuma said. You can dream, Tachibana Lee, you and Yageto keep him out of trouble, okay, said Naruto. Ryuho said, will do, friend, as he turned to leave. Nazaryu remarked, you have some pretty loyal friends there, Necro. Yes, I do. Naruto exclaimed with pride. Although 8 months seemed insignificant, Naruto saw it as more than a year and a half, as his uncle had stated. Every 2 months, Kazuma and Ryuho would show up at cave time and have a big showdown to see who was the best. He had also undergone a significant transformation, and his hair had grown to almost reach his shoulders, and his whisker birthmarks had thickened because they only used their fists to fight instead of their alders. It always ended in a tie, however. Naruto eventually learned everything his uncle had taught him. However, as time passed, it became necessary to depart. Tragically, Naruto questioned, so uncle, are you sure you do not wish to return to the village? I'm sure it holds too many painful memories, but I will write. But this is for you. If you ever activate Kachyu, this will tell you the risks and advantages. Nazaryu replied as he handed him the scroll. After bidding his uncle farewell with a final embrace, Naruto headed out to meet Kazuma and Ryuho. After about a day's run, Naruto met up with Ryuho. Kazuma, Yageto and Terani. Kazuma hadn't changed much other than he was more muscular, but Ryuho had changed quite a bit. High green hair reached to his shoulders and he was a little more muscular, but the thing that got Naruto was every time he took a step there was a large thump. But another thing he noticed, Yageto and Terani were walking slower, rubbing their stomachs. Tachibana Lee, how was the hunt? Naruto asked. Other than a few sound camps, nothing. We spent 9 months and nothing, Kazuma whined. Yes, but if you remember, Tachibana, we did free a few villages and destroyed a few facilities of Mujo's, plus we couldn't endanger Terani and Yageto because of their condition, Ryuho stated. Conditions? What do you mean? Oh, I get it now. Congratulations guys, how far along are they? Naruto asked. Terani 4 months, Yageto 3, Ryuho said, answering Naruto's question. Yeah, and even Kunoichi's during pregnancy have redouble walking. Necro, you wouldn't have brought it, would you? Kazuma asked. As a matter of fact I did, but we never had a chance to use it, Naruto said, unsealing a small storage scroll from his glove. Then he unsealed a larger scroll about the size of the one on Jiraiya's back, and with a swipe of blood from Naruto's thumb the chakra jeep appeared. That's great, but there are only 4 seats. One of us will have to hoof it, Kazuma stated. I'll run, but to keep up I'll need you to store my weights, Necro, Ryuho said, taking the weights from his legs and handed them to Naruto. Jez Lee, these weigh a ton. How much weight are these? Naruto asked. 800 pounds each. Damn, you really are sadistic to your legs, Naruto said, sealing the weights away. The girls got in the back of the jeep and Kazuma got in the passenger's side while Naruto started the car taking off. Ryuho was beside the car the whole time it was moving. About an hour of driving, Naruto decided to start a conversation. You know Tachibana Lee, all this time Yageto and Tarani has been with our group, but two have never told me how you guys met, Naruto said, gaining smirks. Well, me and Tarani met after we were separated in Sea Country, Ryuho said, remembering back to the day they met. It will be worthwhile if you flashback. After the laboratory collapsed, Ryuho believed he had drowned in the ocean and woke up. He stood up, still in pain, and went outside the little hut to observe the quiet but impoverished village he was in. He took a few steps before collapsing, however. A 17-year-old girl with long black hair and civilian clothes hurried to his aid. Sir, you shouldn't move, you're still badly injured, and if the shinobi see you they will kill you. As Ryuho put it, don't worry about me, what happened to this village? As she assisted Ryuho onto the futon, the young girl exclaimed, about a year ago, ninja from the Sound Village have been terrorizing us and taking 3 people or newborn babies each month to a man named Orochimaru for his experiments. I should have my strength back soon, and I swear a blood oath that evil shall be defeated, Ryuho yelled coldly. She said, Sir, what is your name? Ryuho made the girl blush by asking, Rock Lee, what is yours, beautiful? She said, Tarani Hitsuguya. After being absent for almost 2 weeks, Ryuho eventually made a full recovery. However, he and Tarani got to know one another during that period, and their relationship blossomed from a small ninja village that was destroyed by enemy forces. Tarani was a certified genin, however. As they grew closer, the day that altered everything arrived. The day was as quiet as it could be until 2 Jonin suddenly appeared at the front door, surprising them both and nailing them with tranquilizer darts, which knocked Ryuho and Tarani unconscious. When Ryuho woke up a few hours later, he was chained to a wall and under the protection of 2 Sound Chunin. He pretended to be asleep while attempting to think of a strategy, but he heard it then. Do you think we can do anything we want to the captured girl as long as we keep her alive for the Otokage? Did you hear the boss say that? I propose that we go straight over there and have some fun after our shift ends in 5 minutes. Ryu's anger reached a new level when he heard this. His shackles and most of the wall behind him broke apart, forming Zetsue. He remained silent as he jabbed his hands through the Chunin's wall and tore through their chests, ripping out their hearts in a very bloody yet justified way. He and Zetsue walked down the hallway to Tarani's cell, either killing or mortally wounding every shinobi in their path, but she was gone when he arrived. He approached a Chunin who was barely alive after Ryuho kicked her in the back, leaving her. The girl who was in this cell is where? He asked icily, threatening to kill. The boss claimed to have first dibs when he came and took her. Where can I locate him? Ryuho insisted, 3rd floor, but you'll never get there because they're all very guarded. However, Ryuho had a different idea, so he took a kunai and stabbed the Chunin in the eye socket, sensing that he still had his backpack on beneath his special cloak, which wrapped him in genjutsu, making him appear like his former self. He took out a pair of Ryu's wings, strapped them together, strapped them to his left arm, and ran quickly to the 3rd floor. Ryuho didn't care if these people were willing to sell a human life for a paycheck that made them evil, and evil needed to be destroyed. He made his way to the facility's leader's room and found him standing over Tarani's less than decent body, grinning like a madman as Ryuho and Zetsue sliced through the door. The majority of the ninja on each floor, which were either Chunin to Anbu level, only saw a blur before they met a very bloody end. Now move away from the girl, he made a chilly demand. You look too weak to take on half my troop, so what are you going to do to kill me? The man laughed, he said. Lee approached Tarani's unconscious form, took his cloak over her modesty, and then leapt through the hole in the wall, followed by Zetsue, to confront the man after Ryuho, not amused, snapped his fingers and sent him outside with its powerful ribbons. Why are your men dead if you don't believe I could defeat any of them? The man slowly rose from the ground, his body covered in strange marks, and Ryuho said, I'm ready to send the evil in front of them to hell. Even though you defeated my men, I'm much more powerful than you. You can't beat an Iwatoshi clan member because our blood limit gives us complete control over the planet and the ability to do anything we want. The Iwatoshi shouted as his body completely changed into a loin-like frame before being engulfed by metal, rock, and earth. He then cleaved half of Zetsue's body with a single slash, sending Ryuho through a wall. Now who is the weakling? After I murder you, I'll have my way with the girl and send her to Lord Orochimaru so he can use her in his experiments. The Iwatoshi chuckled malevolently. However, those words were incorrect because something inside of him exploded, and he had a vague memory of fighting. He leapt to his feet, took off his weights, and uttered a single, straightforward name. Zetsue. With that, the small remnant of Zetsue changed into something new and wrapped itself in a silver cloak. With the exception of his face, he was no longer human-like. His head was shaped like a crown, and while his upper half was human, it only had 2 rocket-like arms underneath the originals. However, two wing-like structures with blades protruding from either side went to the lower half, where the waist should have been, and the remainder was a snake-like tail with a closed four-bladed propeller at the end. "You're mistaken if you believe that will save you," the Iwatoshi screamed, slashing down with his claws. "My delicate fist, Resin," Ryuhou exclaimed, lifting his hand. He yelled as ribbons came from Zetsue's back and formed a drill slicing through the giant claw flying at him. Ryuhou jumped on Zetsue's tail and disappeared from sight before the Iwatoshi's next attack hit him. Zetsue and Ryuhou appeared behind the Iwatoshi and once again raised his head, yelling, "My vigorous fists, Garyuandfukuru." He shouted as the Iwatoshi's armor-like form was mostly destroyed by the two rocket-like arms that shot off. Before he collapsed, Ryuhou thought he had defeated a small army and their leader and freed a small village. Ryuhou leapt down from Zetsue, moving at full speed with his blade ready for the final blow, his body radiating a silver light as he sliced through the remaining armored Iwatoshi's armor, taking his head with it. He said goodbye to the villagers and left the following day, but Durani stopped him as he got to the road. "Please, Lee, bring me along. I love you too much to let you go," she yelled. "Yes, I do care about you, and I could use some companionship while I look for my friends," as she squealed and clung to his arm, grinning broadly, he said. Flashback end. Naruto exclaimed in amazement, "Wow Lee, that was really not in your character. You usually avoid kill." Kazuma recounted his story and said, "Hey yeah, that was almost the same way I met Yageto except without killing or the waking up in the girl's house." Flashback. "I wouldn't have written it if it weren't worthwhile. He saw them defeat a young blonde Cloud Kunoichi and then take her what appeared to be a hostage. Kazuma could not allow them to do this because his code would not permit it. He may have done some things in the past that he was not proud of, but he would make up for them here." Kazuma walked slowly down the road and found two men in black cloaks with red clouds on them. One was made so that all you could see were his eyes, and the other had white hair and a scythe. "Hey freak with the scythe and no face, you won't get hurt if you just take the girl down," Kazuma shouted. "I wonder what element Hidan is, but he has a new heart for my collection," said the man in the mask. "Kakuzu doesn't matter as long as I can secure the Nikomanda and spill his blood for Lord Jashin." With an evil laugh, the man named Hidan said. "The girls are Jinchurikin, which indicates that you are with Akatsuki. This gives me even more motivation to fight, and I'm not giving up on you guys, so go for it," Kazuma said as his arm dispersed out of existence, reforming into his oh-so-famous shell bullet, and the propeller on his back started spinning, pulling him into flight as he charged at him full fury, yelling, "Shell bullet burst." Kazuma's power astounded Hidan and Kakuzu, but they weren't going to let it get to them, so they both performed a series of hand signals and simultaneously exclaimed, "Ninja art! Lightning cannon! Jutsu!" When two massive energy bolts struck Kazuma, his arm sadly behaved like a lightning rod, shocking him and leaving his body feeling like jelly. "Well, the punk wasn't that strong after all. Would you, Hidan, take the initiative to cut out his heart?" As Kazuma was lifted into the air by a black thread that resembled a tentacle wrapped around his neck, Kakuzu uttered those words. "Lord Jashin will be pleased with this offering made in his honor," Hidan said, lifting his scythe in preparation to sever Kazuma's body. He thought, "This is it, I'm going to die well, I lived a good life, I'll see you soon, Konami." However, as his body started to glow gold, he mentally yelled, "This is now I will live, I can't die, and I don't care about the past." He punched Kakuzu and leapt back, recalling Konami's final words, which told him to live and find love, as well as the faces of his new family. "What is this power emanating from him, Hidan?" Kakuzu inquired. "Stand back, I don't know, but it could kill you." His skin took on the appearance of a Halloween skeleton as he drew a circle around himself. Kazuma felt powerful again, and as his left arm formed a shell bullet, his chest covered itself with a gold armor breastplate from there down to right before his legs were covered in a gold and maroon leotard. His legs covered themselves in gilt armor until they formed a loin-like paw or foot, and on his back, a golden fin formed near the once blade-like propeller, which was now a tail-like whip. Finally, the four pieces of armor on his face changed into an armored helmet, leaving his mouth and eyes exposed, and three loins mane-like armor helmet top. Kazuma started to approach the two terrified Akatsuki members. "Lord Yashi's circle has given you an IA blood connection, so don't get any closer. If you keep moving forward, I'll chop off your head, and you'll perish while I live forever," Hidan shouted, and since Kazuma didn't stop, he chose to do it. However, as his scythe made contact with his neck, he heard it a clink rather than tearing flesh. "You idiots don't understand that as long as I can protect someone, I don't care about my own fate, so get ready to die at my own feet," Kazuma shouted as the tail-like whip struck the ground, sending him hurtling toward Hidan and Kakuzu, who then punched him in the face, sending the two into the forest, where Kazuma picked up the girl and took off. The punch would have taken down a squadron of Chunin in a single blow. Flashback end. She is a Jinchurikin, and it's fantastic that you still have some power from the other side, but how did you hook up? Lee inquired. Well, after I saved her she kept asking for a date. About 2 weeks of non-stop asking. I caved and we started dating. Then we found you, Lee, Kazuma replied. Naruto, now concentrating on the road, remarked, well, look on the bright side, we'll be home in less than a week and hopefully Sensei will meet us there. A lavender-eyed girl with long indigo hair stood at Konoha's north gate a week ago, waiting for her love to come back. Who was this girl? Hinata Hyuga, who had changed a lot from her shy past, and time had done wonders to her figure. I won't deal with her assets because if you've seen her, you know she's gorgeous even without them. Since it was difficult to be both an active jonin and a head medic, Hinata, who was Tsunade's apprentice along with Sakura, was first in line to inherit Tsunade's title as medical chief and slug sanin. She was also known as the Angel of Death, because of her chakra scalpel jutsu and her gentle fist taijutsu, which made one touch lethal. She was ecstatic that Naruto, Kazuma, and Ryuhou would be returning today, and that the man she loved would be able to embrace her at night and express her love for her. When a swift object appeared over the horizon toward the gate while she was daydreaming, Hinata immediately recognized it as Naruto because only his car could move as fast as Might Guy at full speed while wearing weights. As they got closer, Hinata lost control of herself and ran to Naruto, who was just entering the gate, yelling, Naruto. She gave him a passionate kiss, releasing all of the pent-up lust and longing she had suppressed for the previous 2 years. They remained on the ground for about 2 minutes before Yageto suddenly exclaimed, well, isn't that the cutest thing you ever did see? Naruto had been attacked by Hinata without warning, and he knew it was her because of the way she kissed him. Not a day has passed that I haven't thought of you, Hinata. It's great to see you again, Naruto said, kissing her once more. I think you don't want to miss out on anything else anymore, Naruto. You've missed a lot since you left, she said, kissing him, but Yageto then chimed in, indicating that he should introduce them. Naruto got up, blushing, and drew Hinata close to him to introduce her. Hinata, please meet Tarani Hitsuguya and Yageto Raigen, the fiancés of Ryuhou and Kazuma. Tarani bowed as best she could and said, nice to meet you at last. So you're the famous Hinata Hyuga blonde has been bragging about. I thought he was exaggerating when he said you were a goddess in human skin, but I see now he did not lie. Yageto replied with a grin. Hinata grinned and remarked, it is very nice to meet you both as well. I hope we can be friends. We'll both see you in the upcoming 6 months if what Naruto reads aloud from your letters when he believes no one else is around is accurate. Hinata gasped and smiled as Yageto congratulated Kazuma and Ryuhou while massaging her belly. So, Angel, what did we miss during our absence? Naruto inquired. So, Kakashi is seeing his old Anbu Latinate friend Yugo. Takashi Anko is currently married to Kisame and is expecting a child soon. Itachi asked Shizune to marry him, and she accepted. The alter trio that Anko married was shocked to their core by Hinata's statement. They all agreed with Naruto's suggestion. Well, before we got something to eat before we go to Tsunade and report we're back. When they entered the Ichiroku Ramon stand, where Naruto wanted to eat, they all gasped in disapproval. Old man Ichiroku dropped his ladle upon seeing Naruto. Naruto, you're back. Would you prefer the house special or the usual? Are you prepared to serve anything? He asked. Naruto shocked Tarani and Yageto by saying, how about 10 house specials and 5 misas? I heard his love for Ramon was legendary, but I always thought it was just a story, Yageto stated. To get their attention, Kazuma said, yeah, told you so, hun, but Naruto, there is something I'd like to ask you and Hinata. All right, ask away, old friend. When Ryuhou and I learned the girls were expecting, we decided we wanted a wedding before the babies were born. However, since your wedding is in a month, we wanted to know if we could have a joint wedding, Kazuma questioned, causing Naruto to choke on his Ramon and Hinata's eye to swell like a balloon. I don't know, I can't make that decision, but if Hinata is okay with it, so am I, okay, hun. Hinata giggled a little and said, it's okay, it would be fun, we could all go to Wave Country for our honeymoons and have a great time. Ryuhou passed out from joy. Naruto noticed that Ayame was missing when he looked up into the shack. Hey, old man, where is Ayame? She is off on her honeymoon with Iruka, she'll be back in a week. I knew that Ayame and Iruka-sensei would become more than just passive flirts after they got married, but you didn't tell me that, Hinata. Naruto uttered those words. She apologized and said, sorry, it slipped my mind. They went straight to the Hokage Tower after their meal to find Tsunade sleeping at her desk, cursing papers while she slept. Naruto gave her a gentle shove and took a punch to the face, but he didn't flinch despite having just been hit full force by the strongest kunoichi alive. Upon acknowledging her actions, she attempted to heal Naruto but was unsuccessful. She thanked Kami for his extraordinary endurance and then listened to their report. Well, you two are truly capable of finishing tasks, and you have just passed the test I'm giving. 8 of Orochimaru's facilities were destroyed, and 18 villages were freed, she said, but then strange things started to happen. After a yip came from Naruto's backpack, Kit leapt onto Tsunade's shoulder, curled its tail around her neck, purred, and cuddled up to her cheek before running around the room. Don't worry, Grandma, he simply enjoys meeting new people and doesn't bite. Naruto spoke uneasily. Yeah, adorable as he may be, you 3 have been chosen to form the first Sannin squad ever, along with 3 other people. Tsunade petted the young fox kid on her shoulder and smiled at the expressions on the faces of the altar trio, who were shocked to be a part of a new squad, not just any Sannin squad, but the first one. Grandma, are you certain about this? Sannin is for some of the best ninjas, on par with the Hokage. Astonished, Naruto said. Yes, I have a match scheduled against 2 other contenders as well as one of our hardest and fastest Jonin. If you win, you'll be promoted to Sannin, she said as 2 Anbu men, one dressed as a shark and the other as a weasel mask, materialized beside her. Itachi Kisame, it's been a while. As they took off their masks, Ryuhou uttered those words. Kisame said, Hey brats, good to see you too, and if I don't say so myself, it's good to see you, brother-in-law. Naruto laughed. You seem like a wise brother, but who would have guessed that you would wind up with my sister? Naruto uttered those words. If I may ask, Kazuma, Naruto, Ryuhou, who are the 2 extremely pregnant young women behind you? Tsunade inquired. Good that you asked. This is my fiancé, Yugito Raigen. Kazuma and Ryuhou both drew Tarani and Yugito close while grinning broadly. Kazuma exclaimed joyfully. Yugito Raigen, you are a Jinchurikin of Nibi no Nikomanda and a missing nin. You cause problems for the Akatsuki and Kumo at the moment, don't you know that? Tsunade inquired. You don't need to worry about anything because my father, the Raikage, tried to sell me to Akatsuki, so I fled. They nearly caught me. If it weren't for this lover boy who beat 2 Akatsuki members. Yugito affirmed that what she had said was accurate. Alright, so you are a Konoha ninja now, and you can begin active duty in 5 years. Ryuhou, who is the pretty young woman with you now? Even if she becomes pregnant with our child, my fiancé Tarani Hitsuguya's flames of youth will continue to shine brightly. Having a Lee moment, Ryuhou said. Tarani bowed as best she could and said, It is very nice to meet you, Lord Hokage. Now that the greetings are over, we head to my private training area. Kazuma is up against Kisame. Ryuhou is up against your former sensei Might Guy, and Naruto is up against Itachi. As Hinata and Itachi Kisame Tsunade scattered in a cloud of smoke, Tsunade uttered those words. All right, ladies, grab my shoulder and stay here until we return. Kazuma Ryuhou. When the altar trio reappeared at a sizable clearing 4 miles away, they discovered their opponents were prepared to throw down, he said, as they vanished in a whirl of black flames. All right, Naruto versus Itachi is the first Sannin exam match, Tsunade said as the other moved a safe distance away because there was going to be destruction and lots of it. Begin. Hey Itachi, let's spice things up. You can use anything you have in your toolbox, but I won't use my alter ego. Naruto grinned as he spoke. All right, but if you don't, this will be dull, so I'd rather you did, Itachi said, disappearing into thin air. Itachi reappeared behind Naruto with one of Naruto's chakra Anbu blades slashing down, making contact, but when it hit, it burst into shadows and Naruto was absent until a loud shout of Uzumaki Art, Hellfire River. Naruto already had his Necrogan active, giving him a 60-degree view of the area. The river of black flames flew towards Itachi as he teleported away, taking out yet another clone. But then another Naruto appeared in front of the river of hellfire and with a swing of his sword he yelled, Namikaze Art, Hurricane Gale Dragon. As Itachi screamed, a tornado-like dragon sped across the black flame river, causing it to change course and fly in his direction. Combination Art, Dragon River God. Itachi didn't have time to react as the dragon and river raced toward him, but he teleported away from the center of the training area before it could do any more damage. The majority of Itachi's shirt and vest were gone, and he had multiple severe burns on his skin. I must admit that would have ended me, but this battle is not yet over. Flashing through 100 seals as if they were insignificant, Itachi exclaimed. Fire style. Grad Flare Meteor. As he used Amaterasu to transform the boulder into a black flaming meteor, Itachi uttered those words as a ball of earth appeared in the sky alongside him. Naruto smirked as he yelled, Uzumaki, Namikaze Art. Necro Maelstrom. As his razor maelstrom separated with a single sword swing and was swallowed by a tornado of hellfire and wind, Itachi took the blow before teleporting away as the vortex struck the flaming boulder, tearing it to ribbons and sending it back at him. That was really strong, and while it has been fun to argue with you, I'm afraid I have to end this now. Itachi said this as he teleported into the sky, covered himself in Amaterasu, and then hit Naruto like a bullet. I agree. My mother was known as the Red Death because I only learned one jutsu from my uncle ripping off his weights. Naruto leapt into the air as the flames surrounding him intensified and took the shape of a dragon, which collided with Itachi, causing an explosion that covered the area in smoke. Naruto screamed as he flashed through hundreds of seals at a speed that would make Guy envious. A single figure emerged from the smoke, revealing that it was Naruto assisting a weary, scorched, and exhausted Itachi to the medics, and everyone was on edge, eager to find out who had won. Naruto is the winner. Tsunade yelled as she was stunned at the display of power he showed, not to mention he just used a jutsu that hadn't been seen since the Great Shinobi War. Next match, Kisame vs Kazuma. She yelled as they took their place on the already battered training ground. Begin. Without wasting any time, Kisame flashed through 100 seals, forming a lake-like pond out of earth and water in the middle of the training ground. Kazuma, who had no chakra, quickly collapsed, and Kisame flashed through another dozen seals before yelling, Water Style. Shark Hunter Missiles. Kazuma was frantically trying to reach the surface when a few water-based sharks charged at her. As he started to drown, the word, live, flashed through his mind as the sharks and most of the water dispersed, leaving Kazuma standing at the water's bare bed in his alter ego, Proud Fist, while the sharks tore into his flesh, causing him to cry out all the air in his lungs. Take this, my proud fists. You think a little water can defeat me? You're wrong. As the tail-like whip struck the ground and sent Kazuma hurtling toward Kisame, he screamed. When Kazuma's fists struck Kisame's face, sending him to the ground and creating a huge crater, Kisame didn't have time to grab his Samahata and instead thickened the scales on his face. Kazuma is the winner. Tsunade shouted, gesturing for Hinata to tend to Kisame's wounds. The next and last match is Ryuhou vs Might Guy. She yelled as Guy rushed to the field with the amazing speed he was known for, flowed by Ryuhou, who had his Ryu's wings attached together secured on his left arm. Begin. Lee, my beloved student, you are more radiant than ever. Let's make this a battle to remember. Guy shouted in his own silly way. I'd like that, but since you're moving more slowly now, could you please forfeit? Ryuhou inquired. Why is that young student of mine? Guy inquired while closely observing Ryuhou, who didn't even appear to have moved. He was gone. Because I already have the victory, Ryuhou said, putting the blade to Guy's throat. Guy turned around and gave Ryuhou a hug, saying, you have surpassed me in speed and stealth. I am proud of you, so I admit defeat. Ryuhou had a Lee moment and gave Guy a hug in return as the cured sunset genjutsu appeared, frightening everyone. As of right now, winner Ryuhou, I declare you all Sannin. Let's return and talk about your team. With the exception of the Alter Trio, who held on to Naruto as he teleported to Tsunade's office in flames, Tsunade said, vanishing in a cloud of smoke. You all did a great job and demonstrated your unique ninja art style. I asked Itachi to lead the group, but he declined when he learned that you would be on the Naruto team. Therefore, I'm asking you, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, to lead the first Sannin squad. Tsunade bowed and asked. Although I would be honored, don't Sannins need to be proficient in summoning? Since he didn't want to be a Toad Sannin, Naruto inquired. Yes, well, I'll let you pick from the other summoning clans since all you know is the Toad, and Jiraiya is still the Toad Sannin. Tsunade remarked. I went to a vault and opened it to see a number of summoning contracts, but then tiny fragments of the floor burst into being, gathered around Naruto's hand, and rose up to evoke a demonic eye. Madam Hokage, that won't be required because I, the King of Demons and the leader of the Dragon Clan, have chosen to offer the boy our dragon contract because he has proven that he is deserving of calling forth my clan's members. As a contract materialized in front of Naruto, Nazaryu uttered those words. Well, it's nice to meet you. You are the well-known Nazaryu King of Demons. In an attempt to avoid upsetting the great being, Tsunade bowed to him. Tsunade blushed and then grinned proudly as Nazaryu said, it is a pleasure as well seen as the boy truly sees you as his grandmother. As I was saying, you can summon any member of my clan which is divided up by elements. You may even summon my underling, my own son Yamato no Ryu. Everyone was shocked when Nazaryu revealed that Yamato no Ryu was the eight-tailed Biju. As he signed the contract, Naruto said, "Thank you, Lord Nazaryu, it is an honor that you have chosen me to be the first summoner of the Dragon Clan." "Oh, but that's where you're mistaken. Although you may be a summoner, you are now regarded as an honorary Ryu, so don't diminish your status or tarnish our clan name as one of the children of destiny. We see you as a valuable asset for the future." Disappearing, Nazaryu said. What did he mean when he said, "Children of destiny, Lady Tsunade"? Kazuma inquired inquisitively. "Since I would need to search through my family's legend to find that information, I'll have to get back to you on that." Tsunade swore at the paperwork. "Grandma, why don't you have a shadow clone do the paperwork if you detest it?" Tsunade's head popped up at the statement, and Naruto asked as she ran over to him and crushed him in an embrace for helping her figure out how to defeat the paperwork. Her ultimate enemy. She let go of him when he fell to the ground, turning into a withered, lifeless husk. "Thank you for the great idea, Naruto, but I'm giving you your ranks. Your aliases are Anon Ryu Henjira, Ryuhou Aonsoku Henjira, Kazuma Dongon Henjira, Hinata Iman Enzuru, Kisame Hujiro Kyubu, and Itachi Bachi Hitome. If you leave the village as of right now, I'm giving you all 3 months off," Tsunade said, brushing them all aside. When Naruto and the group arrived home to celebrate and make plans for the wedding, a very pregnant Enko gave her little brother a big hug without causing any discomfort to her melon-sized belly. "Little brother, you've grown so much that we've been missing you." She practically choked the boy as she screamed. "Now, honey, I understand that you're happy to see him, but keep the twins in mind. You don't want to miscarry." Kisame spoke uneasily. "Yes, I am aware that seeing him is wonderful." Naruto once again collapsed to the ground as a withered, lifeless husk, as Enko said, releasing his grip. They all decided on a single theme that they would write down so they would remember it the following day from all the sake they drank, but the rest of the night was just one big party and an idea passer for their weddings. 3 days later, Enko went into labor, and Hinata was the one who gave birth to the 2 boys, whom she and Kisame named Zabuza and Kurando do Hoshigaki, were given their animalistic traits the following day when, while Naruto was practicing his summoning, Zabuza touched a dragon by accident, and Kurando got his from Kit because he was interested in the baby and it grabbed its tail and put it in his mouth. When the altar trio and the 3 stunning brides to be arrived the following week, they were all split up because it was considered unlucky to see the spouse before the wedding. However, on the day of the wedding, all 3 grooms were as nervous as a worm hiding from a bird. All the clan leaders were present, with the exception of Neji, and the ceremony lasted a long time. The boys made it down the aisle to Tsunade, who would serve as the wedding minister, and watched as Kakashigai and Iruka escorted Hinata Tarani and Yugito down to the trio. "Speak now or forever hold your peace if you have any reason why these 3 couples shouldn't get married," Tsunade remarked as the doors flew open, revealing Danzo, the head of Root's army, and his soldiers, as well as the elders of the Hyuga, led by Hiyashi and an army of branch members. "Yes, since none of you will be around to enjoy it, I have a reason." This was a huge mistake for them, as the new Sannin squad and the other clan heads rushed into action, eliminating as many ninjas as they could, Hiyashi said as Root and Hyuga both charged at anyone in sight. However, the fight was exhausting and bloody. Ryuhou and Kazuma were already exhausted from using stage 1 of their alter egos, and even then they switched to stage 2, which wasn't enough, and then they saw Danzo Hiyashi and a Hyuga elder holding Yugito and Hinata Tarani with kunais to their thoughts. "We'll either kill your whores right here and then or let them live to be our slaves if you surrender and die." In order to preserve the clan's tears of rebirth, Hiyashi threatened to kill Tarani and Yugito and transform Hinata into a breeding Furutor even if they didn't give up. As power surged through their bodies and caused them to glow with their own alter energy from the opposite side, something snapped in each of them. Despite having previously reached his 3rd stage, Naruto's sword burst through the wall as his alter morphed around his body to resemble a dragon. However, this time was different, as 2 of Nazaria's demonic eyes appeared on his breastplate as he declared, "You are ready for the Kachu." When he heard this, Naruto's eyes started to burn and then seemed to change. If you looked at his eyes directly, you would see a clashing vortex of power where his iris and pupil should have been, and his body glowed black. A fragment of Ryu's paste flashed before his eyes, recalling a sacrifice that had once awakened an ancient power within him. Zetsue then dispersed and took shape around Ryuhou, forming armor from the neck up, giving him a jacket-like guard with 2 blade-like rearguards at the top, an armored breastplate, and armor for the rest of his body, from the knees down to the feet where blade-like shoes appeared 2 small blades with crosses in the middle formed on his wrists, and finally 2 towers resembling blades formed on his shoulders as his body glowed silver. Kazuma continued to think that if something happened to her, he would kill them all in the slowest way possible. His body glowed in golden light, forming a lion-like altar, and the three approached. Santa, remain behind or the girls will perish, Hiyashi suffocated. They will, for real. 3 portals appeared behind the girls, sucking them in before closing and reopening behind the frightful trio, gently setting the girls down on the ground as they all yelled in unison. When Ryuhou noticed Danzo, who had the kunai at his fiancée's neck, fleeing, he instinctively activated his altar's true power, causing most of the armor to vanish and creating his oh-so-favorite two-sided blade that attached itself to his left arm. Now that they had their ticket to kill the boys gone, they started to run as if they were being pursued by demons. Danzo believed that he was safe and could escape with his men encircling him, but all of his guards literally fell to bloody pieces, and he felt a blade pierce his stomach. Then, with his ultimate speed, he disappeared, leaving 7 distorted afterimages behind him. You are evil and evil must be destroyed because you took my soon-to-be wife hostage, friend, to kill her, and had your men attack my friends for it. Ryuhou uttered those words as he raised his blade and thrust it upward, killing Danzo in the most gory and bloody way possible. With a powerful flick of his whiptail, Kazuma sped towards the Hyuga carrying Yugito, slamming it to the ground and then punching it repeatedly with his uncontrollable strength until the Hyuga was reduced to a bloody heap of bones and meat. His sword tail tore through Hiyashi's stomach as Naruto glanced at him and said, "You and your clan have wronged me and Hinata for the last time. Any final words? You are nothing more than a dirty demon that reacted from 2 heroes, and we ought to have killed you the day that beast was sealed inside of you. Even though I've seen that a lot in my life, I'll still like hearing you scream as you burn." After Hiyashi screamed in agony until his vocal cords turned to ash and all that was left of him was a pile of ash that blew away in the wind, Naruto said as he was consumed by hellfire. After that, he rejoined Kazuma and Ryuhou at the battlefield. "Guys, how about we put an end to this conflict?" Kazuma inquired. "I completely agree with you," Ryuhou said, vanishing with his unimportant speed. "There's no other way for me to think of it," Naruto said as he took off. The altar trio had collected all of the remaining root and Hyugas within an hour, but they were still grateful that none of their friends had been killed, despite a few minor wounds. "The Hyugas need to be interrogated. Other than that root, your fate is death. Naruto, you know what to do." Tsunade approached the remaining coup d'etat prisoners to determine their fate, but she noticed that each Hyuga had a caged bird seal on their forehead. She said, allowing Naruto, who was as angry as everyone else that his wedding had been ruined, to flash through the summoning seals and call forth none other than Yamato no Ryu, the 3rd strongest demon and the legendary son of Nazaryu. "Why do you call me Naruto, little bro?" Yamato inquired. "Some traitors who lack emotions will be executed quickly, so we want you to instill fear in them before they turn into your new chew toys." The 8-tailed dragon grinned like the demon he was when Naruto said that. "Since no being can be emotionless, we'll investigate why these little humans lack feelings." As he approached the root ninja, he breathed on them before roaring in their faces. Naruto and Yamato smiled because they did have emotions, but they repressed them. The fear on the faces of the so-called elite root Anbu was evident, and the ground beneath them had become wet from their bowel movements. "Is it time, my friend?" the fearsome Biju asked. "Go ahead and indulge yourself. You deserve it." Malice appeared in Naruto's voice as he said. The dragon used his teeth to grab the root forces by their ropes and flung them into the air before slapping his strong jaws down on the ninjas and devouring them all. "Little bro, is this all you needed?" Yamato inquired. "Yeah, that's all. Be careful around Akatsuki. I regret that they might catch you." As the dragon nodded and dispersed in a cloud of smoke, Naruto spoke. As Tsunade repeated the entire ceremony, Naruto and the group found themselves back at the blood-stained altar. As the ceremony came to a close, Tsunade asked again. "Talk now or never speak again. If there is any reason why these couples shouldn't get married." Everyone tensed, but nothing happened. "I now declare you husbands and wives to kiss your brides, if you know what I mean." As the 3 couples shared one of the most fulfilling yet long-awaited kisses, everyone swooned and applauded. Naruto summoned one of his new cousins, a wind dragon that sliced through the wind as he flew, and they made their way on their honeymoon in a way that no one would have believed if they hadn't seen it. After visiting Wave, where the villagers greeted them like heroes upon the return of the man who had saved their village from an evil tyrant, they all spent one of the best honeymoons ever. Naruto really didn't want it because he wanted their respect when he was Hokage so he could rub it in their faces when he proved he could become the greatest Hokage ever. They spent 2 months there being cared for to the hilt. Even though they didn't want it, they returned to Konoha via dragonflight because it was the quickest way to get there, but as soon as they got there, they started to be treated like they had been in Wave. They had improved as a team after 2 more months of rigorous training assigned by Jiraiya and Tsunade, with Naruto as the leader. Naruto was not only an inspiring team leader, but he also demonstrated tactics that no one knew, not even Kazuma and Ryuhou, and he continued to demonstrate his incredible skills that he was unaware he knew. Though he might have been a little crazy if he had known the truth, he had access to Nazaria's knowledge Viva Necrogan, but now that it had changed, it only strengthened the bond. Tsunade, however, gave them something more beneficial today rather than calling them in for training or a mission. Hey, listen up, you are the new Sannin squad, and as such, you will need to hide your faces, so I have had these specially made for you. As she gave a mask to each member, she said. Itachi received a blank mask with the symbol of his mange Mangenkyo circling it. Hinata received an elegant yet appropriate nickname, Angel of Death, as the mask was one angle wing representing heaven and a demonic dragon wing representing hell as they connected together to make the mask. Kazuma received a mask that resembled his alter ego's stage 1 fist, but with eye holes. Ryuhou received a mask that resembled Zetsue's face in stage 2. And Kisame received a mask of a shark with real razor-sharp teeth and moving jaws that moved in unison with your lips when you added chakra. However, Naruto's mask was by far the most impressive. When you looked at it, you saw the spitting image of Nazaria's main head, but since no one but Naruto had seen him in person, they were complimenting the mask's realism. How did you manage to make this happen, Grandma? Lord Nazariu hasn't been seen in this world for more than 200 years. Tsunade gave Naruto a menacing smile as he asked. You're right, Brad, but he has been seen before, and my ancestors had made an image that seemed so real that I used it to make that mask. And as for the masks, they hold a few secrets as they cast a genjutsu on your face if it is either accidentally or forcefully removed, and they hold a storage seal that when activated they change your wardrobe to suit your Sannin title, and it may never be worn by anyone else as we have put that useful little seal of yours on each of them. And that's not the kicker, they are made out of a special experimental material that when worn adding chakra it's like your mo even wearing it. Tsunade continued. Grandma, these will be destroyed when I activate my altar, so I'm going to need a few. As Ryuhou and Kazuma complained about not having any chakra, Naruto said. We have developed a seal that detects a person's aura through their blood, making it appear as though they had chakra. Don't worry, I've got that covered. I've had a lot of backup masks made for you, Naruto. Additionally, some shinobi and bu do not possess chakra because of a birth deficiency where their chakra coils run enough energy through the body keeping them alive. With a smile, she said. After the gift session, everyone went home, and it turned out that everything Tsunade had said about the masks was true. They could see, smell, and breathe as if the masks weren't there after pouring some chakra into the mask or, in the case of Kazuma and Ryuhou, activating a seal with their blood. The Sannin squad arrived to find Tsunade hitting the sake hard and trying to calm herself from terrible thoughts. Later that night, Naruto and Hinata had fallen into a peaceful yet blissful slumber, but were woken up by an urgent mission summons from Tsunade's most trusted Anbu Captain Yamamoto, whose codename she did not want anyone to know. The Cage has been kidnapped, so this is your first mission as Sannin and your most important one at that. Your mission is to both aid and rescue the Cage, as in the message from Suna 2 Akatsuki teams were involved, she said, startling everyone in the room because they all knew the Cage was none other than Gaara, Suna's Jinchurikin. Naruto, be on guard at all times as they will try to capture you. Also now move out. They disappeared after she yelled. They arrived at the gate in record time because they were rushing. Naruto didn't want to waste any more time, so he summoned his new cousin, Finjenzhou no Ryu, the leader of the Wind Dragon branch, as an honorary dragon. What have you called me for, Naruto? It's late, and dragons need to sleep. Forgive me, Finjenzhou, but we have gotten an urgent and we need to travel fast, or the fate of one of Lord Nazaria's subordinate Shukaku will be captured and bent to an evil fate by the Akatsuki. So can you take us? Asked Naruto. As they climbed onto his back and gripped his scales, the dragon exclaimed, if you asked for speed you summoned the right dragon. Hop on and hold on for dear life. If they didn't, they were in for a life-altering experience. They took off, and Finjenzhou was serious when he said, hold on for dear life. The G-force was so strong that they were pushing themselves onto Finjenzhou's back, not to mention how fast they were traveling. They had arrived in a matter of hours rather than days, but Naruto couldn't get Nazaria's voice out of his head even a moment after landing. Since I'm both a demon and a summon, Kami and I came to an agreement, and he consented to summon me once every 7 days for 10 minutes. Nazariu exclaimed joyfully. Good, because we may need your assistance later. I can see the 4 Akatsuki members, but I am unable to locate them. However, I can see a lot of Jonin-level shinobi nearby, so they are most likely packing a lot. Naruto remarked that he thought this would be an extremely difficult mission. After Tamari escorted them to the Suna Council and Konkuro, who was slowly dying from an unidentified poison in his blood from a man named Sasori, they arrived at the hospital. An elderly man and woman said, "You must be the team Tsunade sent, but we only sent out the notice 5 hours ago. You must have really run fast to get here this early." With his dragon mask moving his lips, Naruto said, "On the contrary, we flew here on one of the fastest flying beings alive, but we need briefing. What is the status of the village and shinobi forces?" The village is in shambles. Several large numbers of shinobi have been either killed or have had large piles of rubble collapse on them, and the only lead we have on the Akatsuki's direction of travel in the desert lays with Konkuro, who can't even talk let alone take a full breath on his own," said the elderly lady. Hinata nodded as she performed a diagnostic on Konkuro. "Iman, you have a challenge, so get to work. If it comes down to it, use the tears, but don't resort to it if it's your only option," Naruto said. Hinata pulled out a small vial and a syringe to inject the antidote into his bloodstream. "Well, it's not too bad, but this person used a very known and deadly poison called strychnine, which causes respiratory shutdown and suffocates the body, killing them in a very painful way. But luckily there is a cure which I just so happen to have," she said. Gazing at the other members of the group, Naruto grinned under their masks. Itachi and Kisame were grinning because Naruto had just given them an excuse to brag. "Hujiro Bachi, go to the village and Hujiro stop enemy forces that may threaten the safety of the village, and Bachi, help unearth any shinobi that are buried in the rubble. Keep your channels on, as that is how we will communicate for now," Naruto said. Naruto remarked, "I'm an Aonsoku Dangan, you're with me now, get out, we have work to do." As everyone took their places, knowing that Naruto had just been given the most important clue to locate Gaara, Konkuro, who was somewhat free of movement, held up a piece of cloth and gave it to him. Naruto leaned down to Konkuro's ear and whispered. As Konkuro recognized him, he exclaimed, "Don't worry, I won't let them kill Gaara because I don't desert my friends." He struggled to say the name Naruto, but Naruto interrupted him by placing his finger on Konkuro's lip and shaking his head, preventing him from revealing who he was. "What is your plan to search for the Kasuke? We never got your name. Now that we think about it, if you would be so kind to telephone us," the elderly gentleman responded. Naruto flashed through the summoning seals and called forth 8 horse-sized earth dragons, saying, "Anan is what you may call me, and we can use the cloth to track the Akatsuki and Gaara, as I have the best tracking summons possible." The middle earth dragon said, "Hello again, hatchling. Do I and my tracking team owe this honor?" As he passed the cloth to the dragons, Naruto said, "Hello to you too, Chesa. I am in need of your talents and those of your team to track this scent." They were in a frenzy after they had learned the scent by heart after 5 seconds or so. Being a tracker rather than a combat summon, Chesa growled, "It would be a pleasure to rack them, as this is the scent of the man who killed my brother, and I'm telling you now, you had better kill him or I'll have your hide." Her brother was also a tracker, and he was killed while on a mission to find Shikaku. Naruto grinned and believed him, then buried herself and her team in the ground. "You have my word, as I will stake my title as honorary Ryu that he will die," she exclaimed. Lee inquired, "What is the plan now, leader?" He prayed to Kami that Gaara was still alive and said, "We wait and pray that they return soon, because that's all we can do for now." Kazuma, who was itching for a fight, fidgeted and said, "I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the kind of person to wait and do nothing, so they better get back soon or I'm going out there and look at them myself." Knowing that Kazuma would not respond, he asked, "Don't be so rash, Dangan. This is an important mission, and if we so much as make one mistake, it could mean the life of the Kasuke. Could you live with that, Dangan?" Approximately 8 hours later, Chesa reappeared, smiling and rising from the ground. "I have found their location, but it is heavily protected by both jutsu and ninja, but these ninja possess a strange chakra that does not feel human," she stated as she marked a location on a map. Ryuhou questioned, "Were these men wearing masks with breathing tools?" The Deegan said, "Yes, but why do you ask, young one?" "Because they have powers almost like they have altar, and they can be above Anbu level," Ryuhou remarked, recalling the day he wasn't all that proud of the Iwadoshi. With a puff of smoke, Chesa said, "Well, I have done my deed, so kill that man. Oh, and watch out, they've got some kind of genjutsu on the boulder that seals them in." Her voice vanished. With his weights off, Naruto yelled, "Okay team, we move out," as they took off at a speed comparable to Gai's. Even at maximum speed, they ran for what felt like an hour until they reached a boulder barricading a cave entrance with at least 20 guards. They decided that now would be the ideal time to switch to Sannin clothing, which they had never worn before and had never considered using until now. Because they knew the battle would be significant, they needed Kisame and Itachi first, though. "Hujiro Bachi, do you copy?" The statement, "Yes, leader, we copy," was made by Itachi. Good signing up and get to our position. You'll know where we are as soon as I let off a chakra flare, then teleport over here and create a distraction. Understood, Itachi exclaimed as he gave Kisame the directives. They changed into new clothes when the seal on the inside of their masks activated. They both wore plated mesh undershirts with Anbu-grade armored shirts and cloaks, similar to their old Akatsuki ones, in place of the Anbu uniform they always wore. However, they were different from one another even though they both had the leaf symbol and the Nazaryu design on the back. This time Itachi's, on the other hand, was all white with the mange Mangenkyo symbol encircling the other two designs on the back. Kisami's had blue waves with frontal shark bite patterns. They vanished as soon as they sensed the flare. The Sannin forms of Naruto Kazuma Ryuhou and Hinata were incredible. Kazuma's was similar to his previous one, but it was made with tiny titanium threads to make it fire, water, and blade-proof. In addition, the jacket that had once been made of his old, worn-out black leather was now a glorious shade of orange and gold. In the same way that the shirt covered the majority of his body, was long-sleeved, and featured the Konoha symbol on both sleeves. Ryu's was equally lovely. It was made of titanium threads. Additionally, the back's design was amazing, a speed test between a cheetah and Nazaryu, and his Anbu-grade pants, which replaced his weights with gravity seals and armor at the knees. Alright, consider his vintage black outfit with my extra. Hinata's battle kimono, which resembled angelic robes, was stunning but lethal in appearance. However, the right side was black and the left was white. Her kimono was embellished with dragon urums. Look it up. It's a flower that added beauty to the ensemble, and she had seals on both sleeves right at the wrist. Naruto's, which was a cloth artwork, was by far the most beautiful. His black leather trench coat bore the Konoha symbol, which appeared to have been inked with blood. Itachi had demonstrated to Tsunade how to create a seal that used Amaterasu without burning the host, the person holding it, or in Naruto's case, the person wearing it, which is why the black flames at the bottom were visible and almost appeared to be alive. Two Nazaryu heads were perched on his shoulders, staring in both directions. Two more heads were perched on the sleeves, right at the wrist, and they appeared to be consuming his arms, but there was something so lifelike about each head-like structure that you would have thought they were real. Additionally, Naruto owned an Anbu-grade shirt, but it was made of a scaly material that would not budge or cut no matter how hard he tried to rip it off. The Iwatoshi were caught off guard when Itachi and Kisame appeared, and they killed at least 2 or 3 of them in a split second, leaving them to chase after them. However, they teleported to Naruto's location before they could. Kisame inquired, "So are we late?" Naruto grabbed the two and said, "Nope, we were just about to crash their party the Akatsuki are having in the caves, so everyone grab on to me or Itachi cause we're going for a ride." Before they knew they had teleported, they were staring at 4 men. One with white hair holding a scythe, another with his entire body covered, a short, fat man with dreadlocks wearing a mask over his face, and an Iwa nin with long blonde hair that gave him a girl-like appearance as he sat on Gaara's body like a beanbag chair. With all seriousness, Naruto declared, "This is your only warning. Step away from the cage or we will kill you now and not later. I apologize for disappointing you, but he's head," the blonde exclaimed with a laugh.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.